Hello and welcome to the regular Friday edition of Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham till I die. We might all feel a bit like dying at the moment. I won't do no long intros. You know me, I'm quick into the mark. I'm going to introduce our guests and we're going to discuss the game yesterday and we'll see how that goes and then probably do a preview of Saints away on Sunday as well. So without further ado, we'll introduce our guests for you. Deji, how are you?
I've been better, Adrian. It's good to see you. Good to see you, Sharon.
Right.
Oh,
big up,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Big up. Yeah, look, I've been better. I'm not going to lie to you. My mood is very similar to our club. When Spurs are doing well, I tend to be doing well in my personal life and stuff like that. I'm absolutely embarrassed, and I haven't been embarrassed to be a Spurs fan since before Poch. I'm all right, but ready to get into it tonight. Thanks for the invite.
Eugene, how are you, mate?
I'm doing okay. Similar to Daji, but I'm used to it at this point. I predicted 1-1. I had very low expectations, so I'm annoyed, but not surprised. So,
But Mark, how are you?
It was all good apart from watching football last night. But there we go. You know, it is what it is. You know, at least they can't ruin my weekend till Sunday evening.
And being the dinosaur on the panel, as I'm nearly 70 years of age in January, I'm being the dinosaur. I mean, like, I experienced Spurs getting relegated, and I followed them in the second division on mud banks, open terraces, in pouring rain when, you know, pitches and stands weren't what they are today. They're 5-star hotels today, aren't they? And so that my immune system's pretty good. My Spurs immune system. Once you've experienced relegation, that was heartbreaking. I'll tell you.
I sort of witnessed that. I was certainly alive. Yeah, but I can remember that. I can remember us in second division.
Okay, Deji's only got an hour with us, so we'll start. Right. This was the team, Deji. When you see it, was you happy with the lineup? It's easy to be a hindsight critic, but I mean, was you happy with that lineup? Yeah,
the lineup is the one thing I feel when I saw the lineup yesterday is I was like, why? So why hold back? Wouldn't it be better to start strong and then take the players off if we're 2-0 up? Start with Cooley, start with Solanke, take them off, then to wait and bring them on. So I wasn't fully happy with the lineup because we know that Son doesn't offer anything at the moment as a number 9. And I don't like Timo Werner. I've made it clear. And finally, he's managed to take off his Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder sunglasses because he's now seeing what we've been seeing for the past 18 months with Werner. But the rest of the team, you've got to say, it's fine. Given the circumstances, Udogie and Porro. And a year ago, I would have told you that I don't mind having our centre-backs missing, provided we've got Udogie and Porro on the pitch. So on the face of it, it wasn't a bad squad, but I didn't want to see Son or Werner starting or in those positions. Yeah.
Eugene, when you see the lineup, what's your take on it?
I agree with Deji. I would want to see Lancashire at the 9. I think he deserves another chance, especially that Son is on a terrible form and he's not a 9. I mean, we could see it all year and even last year. His movement isn't there. He's not strong enough. He can't link up play. This year he can't even finish. So I would have either bench Son or Werner and play Lancashire just to give him a chance to show what he can do.
Yeah.
Alan, your take on the lineup, mate, and welcome. Are you with us? Frozen.
I think he's froze.
I think you're frozen, Alan, if you can hear us. Mark, your take on the lineup then?
Well, yeah, I agree with what Deji and Eugene said. You know, it would have been nice to see Lancashire in there. Son's not big enough to hold the ball up, is he? Werner's just useless. And Johnson certainly ain't big enough. So we never had an outball, did we, up top? So, but, I thought, well, that should be good enough to beat Rangers, but how stupid was I?
Deji, the subs bench, it's got a lot of youngsters on it. It shows you how threadbare we are at the moment, doesn't it, with injuries and that?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things, my biggest, I like Ange. Let me just be clear. I like Ange. What I don't like is his management of the team. And I think that he could have managed this a lot better. I mean, you still got Cooley there on the bench, Solanke, Sarr, Lancashire, Eugene's talking about, Dorrington. These guys have all played. They've made appearances. The others were just there for names. I wasn't expecting to see Barnett, Hardy, or Lee Stacey on the pitch, or Whiteman, unless there was a complete disaster taking place on the pitch. But I just think if we had just worked it round with Solanke and Cooley, in that kind of order, I think actually we probably would have started on the front foot, gone up 2-0, and then you can just gradually take the boys off the pitch. What I didn't like was to do the opposite, and then you're having to force Cooley on. He's not rested now. Solanke's not rested. So the purpose of you keeping him on the bench just didn't work because you did it the wrong way around, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Eugene, I'll just go through a couple of comments, Adrian. Just go through a couple. Yeah. Hello, Graham. Yes. 15, 16 points in front of me now in the prediction league. I've already messaged Tal to see if I can get you chucked out of it.
Anybody else in the chat? Oh,
yeah. Jay Ashraf. Good evening, sir. Yeah.
We're going to talk about Ashraf later. Once we've critiqued the squad.
Oh, and there's hang on. Graham's just laughing.
Eugene, we are threadbare, aren't we? A lot of youngsters on this squad. I mean, and Ange has struggled with his rotation. I get why he wanted to rest those players. It is a hard one, though, isn't it? I mean, like, when you've got the injuries we've got, I mean, look, 9 players. Well, we'll have 9 players out for Southampton, right? So it is a hard one. He's choosing to rotate them, but it didn't work. We got a lucky point, but it didn't work, did it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like with other games when Ange needs to shore up that midfield or defense, and he looks at the bench, there is nobody there to come in and make an impact. What's mental to me is Ange at Celtic, he beat Rangers consistently with Celtic. And it does make sense that he can do with Celtic, but with the same tactics, with better players, he cannot do it with the Spurs. I mean, that's a different conversation, but the players that were on that pitch were good enough to win. Yeah. Even if you look at the bench, Kulusevski, Solanke, Sarr, those are senior players that should make an impact. And to be fair, they did make an impact. It was just too late. And the rest of the squad wasn't good enough.
Mark, your take on the subs?
Well, that's about all we got on it. Apart from Doris, the tea lady, I don't see her on there. I mean, that is basically it, isn't it? I mean, unless they're going to promote some more of the under-21 squad.
Yeah, well...
You know what I mean?
Go on, Deji, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. I don't know, but, Ange is doing a lot of kind of covering up for himself. This is the worst injury he ever had. But my thing would be, we had a similar injury crisis last season. What did you do to prepare for it? Like, Phillips is a centre-back. You sent him out on loan. Why would you do that? You're refusing to play Jed Spence. Like, a lot of the stuff, I can't help but feel that he's brought it upon himself. If I had an injury crisis like last season, I would have prepped for it just in case this season. You see other teams leaving players on the bench, not batting an eyelid. I mean, Chelsea had 45 players last season. They didn't bat an eyelid, leaving some of the boys on the bench. I'm not always in favour of letting players rot on the bench, but when you play a quite physically intensive style of play, because that's really what it is, then more often than not, you should expect the injuries to follow. I'm surprised that Solanke has survived this long, to be honest, with the way he works. So I'm just a little bit annoyed that we weren't prepared for this. You know what I mean? It's very easy to say, this is what, we've got 9 players. We had that last year. Van de Ven was gone. Romero was gone. Udogie was gone. We're lucky that Udogie is still around this season. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just have a bit of issue, lack of preparation from the team this season, and I just feel like sorry, I mean to say, it feels like we were more underprepared this season than last.
I'm not sure about that, Deji, because when everyone's fit, you've got 2 players for every position, barring left back. I mean, barring left back, really. I mean, I agree with you on the left back position. We should have resolved that in the summer anyway. But to get 3 of your centre backs out, that is bad. Well, it's unlucky. What's your take, Eugene?
I mean, I can see both sides. I mean, I do agree with Deji, but like on one hand, the club wants those youngsters to get some playing time, to send them out on loan, to develop. On the other hand, given the way Ange plays, he had injury issues at Celtic. We had injury issues last year and this year. Just the way he wants to play and the way they train in practice. They go hard as well. All the players go hard. So it's not a coincidence or an accident that we keep having the same injuries, right? Hamstring issues, muscle issues. Those are not freak injuries, contact injuries. They're the same. Even Ben Davies is getting hamstring injuries. Those are the same types of injuries we've been having for 2 years, and Ange has had it at Celtic. So if the club is not going to back him to bring in bench players, then I agree with Deji. We did need to keep some players, some players on the bench or behind, like Ashley Phillips is a good shout. And not, as you said, not bringing a left back is a travesty. I mean, Udogie, we can see he's riding on fumes. I don't know how many more games he's going to last, not including Spence in the Europa squad was a terrible decision. We see Porro is running on fumes. I mean, he was always a bad defender, but now even on offense, he doesn't do much. He's exhausted. So I think that decision with Spence, plus not having left back, plus having a thin squad, it's costing us, and it's going to cost us in the future for sure.
Yeah. I think. Well, we've got 9 out. I'll come to the injury woes before we do the Southampton thing. But let's just go through the game. I mean, squad depth. Well, I'd like to have seen a few players out of the squad and a few more brought in. Obviously, I mean, like I'm sure most people are getting tired, like with the likes of Basuma saying, "Oh, now you'll see the real me." Well, we've seen the real you yesterday. You're rubbish, right? You're not consistent enough. So you can say Richarlison and Werner and him, those 3. We probably won't get rid of no one until the summer because we're going to need them if the injury situation gets worse or doesn't improve. Deji, we're still going to need those players, even if they're bit part players when people are fit.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What I do feel, and I wanted to ask Adrian, I wanted to ask the panel. On the face of it, the squad isn't that bad. On the face of it, when we have everyone fit and ready, like you said, Adrian, and you reminded me that we've almost got 2 players for every position. It's not that bad. However, I do feel that the only player that's progressed under Postecoglou this season has been Kulusevski. I think every single player has regressed.
Yeah.
And that has been the issue. Basuma is not playing to the level of Basuma or Brighton. Bentancur yesterday was an absolute disaster. I was excited to see him. I said, all right, at least we've got a bit of quality with Basuma in the midfield. He was crap. Madders is a shadow of the Madders that kicked off the season last season. So for me, that we've got players playing beneath their level. And then you look to the side and you look at the likes of Bournemouth, you look at the likes of Brighton, you look at even bloody Nottingham Forest, who were squeezing every last little bit of juice out of those players to produce the results that they're producing. So, yes, I agree. Basuma's been absolutely dog rubbish all season. But I have to ask the question, why? Even Udogie, I'm not happy with him. I'm really not. And I had him down as potentially Danny Rose 2.0. Mate, I would bite your arm off for Danny Rose right now, to be honest with you. Do you get what I mean? Especially over Udogie, who I thought could have been Danny Rose and more. So, yes, the answer is yes. Players have been poor. Very, very poor, and I want to know why.
Right. It's true what you said, Deji. Right. No one is progressed under this manager. Nobody, apart from Kulu. But then again, Kulu, he's finally playing him in his correct position. He always said he wanted to be a 10, but he's looked good out on the right as well. So it's a bit of a quandary with Kulu. But no other player, they're constantly getting injured, right? Porro and Udogie look absolutely dog-tired, and they are. They're burnt out, man. It's this stupid system that he insists on playing all the time, and he won't change. There's
You know what this is, Mark? Look, I agree with that, but I think. Oh, sorry, Adrian. Go ahead.
No. Go on, Eugene. No, guess priority.
Deji, to your point, I agree with you 1,000%. But I think as fans, we overrate our players a bit. There's a reason why Conte did not play Bissouma and said he lacks tactical awareness. There is a reason why Leicester fans were telling us, hey, Maddison shows up, third of the season he plays well, third of the season he's hurt, and then he's nowhere to be found. I think our players, if you look at them at isolation, they're good enough to play well. The issue is what holds him back from being elite players like Maddison. He could be elite if you look at his skill set. Yeah. The consistency is the issue. He shows up once every 5 games. Bissouma has all the skills in the world, but he's lacking tactical awareness. So I think if you look at our players, yes, on their day, they can be good. They can be really good. The issue is it does not happen every single game. And that's a mentality issue. I think there's only so much a manager can do, right? It's on the players to utilize their skills and be consistent. And that's what separates average players from good players from great players. And I think our players are average. On their day, Maddison can be elite, like in the City game. But then for other games, he is MIA. Like yesterday, like Maddison is our leader, assistant captain. Where was he? It's up to him, right? Up to Bissouma to say, hey, we're in trouble. It's a tough game, tough environment. I'm going to step up and lead my team, right, to victory. Same as Son. But they're not about it, right? Maddison is not that guy. So him being, him playing well in big games once every 5 games, and people say, oh, he's world-class or he's elite. He's not. We don't have the mentality, and the players are just not good enough to be consistent. So when you say players haven't improved under Ange, that's true, but we've seen the same players have the same issues under other managers or other teams. Udogie, I agree with you. I think it's just injuries and he's tired. Porro, I think it's also fatigue. But other players, we've seen this before. So I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Deji, I know what Eugene's, I know his meaning, right? But I actually think that I wasn't a fan of Johnson when he came in, but he got 10 goals this season. All right, it was lightweight yesterday, but I think he has improved under Ange. He was bold to give him his debut away to Arsenal. That is a bold move by any manager. And I also think Sarr's improved, but is gradually improving as a player as well. But
that's only because he's getting older, Adrian. That's only because he's getting older. He's not.
No, it's because
it's his development. He's only what, 22? It's his development.
Yeah,
that's all it is. That's why he's getting better. It's nothing to do with the manager, in my opinion.
Right. Well, if the manager chooses to play the players, Deji, your take on that? Do you think? I mean, we taught when we're young footballers that most games are won and lost in midfield, and Eugene rightly pointed out that 2 midfielders that should be key for us in Maddison and Bissouma, they're just not. They're so inconsistent.
They are, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem. I mean, Eugene put it well, talking about the inconsistencies. The thing I just think about is, why did we take these players then? And it boils down to the recruitment. I think for me, what I think is more damning, what I think is really more damning for me, and I know we want to talk about Maddis, but I do look at like the midfield of Fulham or the midfield of Bournemouth or Brighton and think, oh, I would take Jorginho, who Brighton got from Leeds, and have him in our midfield. That would change it up, overnight. I will take bloody Tierney or whatever, or Carney or from bloody Fulham. But yeah, Basuma and Madders, they're just not what we thought they were. We were giving them chances. The big issue I have with Madders, though, is what the hell are we doing giving him vice captain? He's been on our club 5 minutes. For me, you got to earn the right. I would have rather had Ben Davis be one of the vice captains, if not the captain of the team, even if he doesn't start, than have Madders. What has Madders done? Madders, before he joined Spurs, was out there on Twitter or X saying rubbish about our club. And then we've elevated someone who doesn't deserve to be elevated. And then we're looking to them to lead. We should not be looking to Madders to lead. Never. Yeah, he's not at the right. Do you get what I'm saying? As for Basuma, he's just a disgrace, in my opinion. The guy's he's more bothered about going to designer shops and buying flashy clothes than he is football. And that's the truth. Every time I see a bloody orange bag on his story before kickoff, I know he's going to give a shit performance. And it's been true all season. So we should be looking to these players. For me, Basuma, he shouldn't. I agree with you, Adrian. If we don't get rid of Basuma this summer, we're not a serious club. And as for Madders, maybe because we saw a bit of Harry Kane in him. I don't know what it was, but why was he given the captain's armband in the first place? He's not one of us yet.
I agree with you, Madison. Alan, welcome.
Hello.
Right.
I finally figured that out. Sorry.
Right. On the Madison issue, I mean,
hang on a minute. Just 1 minute, Adrian. Just 1 minute, Adrian. Is it sunny and palm trees?
It is not necessarily super sunny, but it is pretty out.
Right.
That's why I'm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
On
And
Madison,
palm trees. Yes, palm trees. What about Madison?
Yeah, on the Madison issue, I mean, someone said, I don't know if it's been print, so I can't source it. Wasn't he rumoured, or did he actually say that Tottenham are a better team when I'm in it? Did he actually say that, guys? Any of you know that?
He did say that.
Oh.
Madders said that. He took issue with being on the bench and said Spurs are a better team. This was before the City game, and was like, yeah, he knows, but he knows that he's been playing well and that the team is better when he's in it. But he's a madman for coming out with a statement like that. And the truth is, he's not actually been that good. That's the truth.
Yeah. Alan?
I mean, if it's true, Deji says it's true, so I believe him. So Madison said it. These guys, I mean, there's going to be egos with some of these guys. And to be honest, I think Spurs kind of lack a little bit of that ego, which, you see in certain players. You see in Ronaldo, you see in Zlatan, you see in players, and it just is what it is. But you got to have something to back it up. And I don't think that Madison has been doing, aside from here and there, he doesn't have the backing of his history this season to be able to say it's better with me in it. You know what I mean? Like if he was like the assist king, and which he's not, or he was setting up plays like a master, which he's not, or scoring a bunch of goals, which he's not. I could see him making that kind of bold statement, but it's just ego. These guys have it. I mean, they're paid so much money, and everyone around them, their agent, everybody tells them how wonderful they are and how great they are, and sometimes they start to believe their own smoke.
Deji, let's start with the players then. Forster, your take on him yesterday?
Boy, I mean, Forster's had a good game. He's done well. The only thing I would say, and I think a lot of you might take issue with what I'm about to say, Forster's been getting a lot of high praise, And I think he's been getting a lot of high praise because we didn't expect much from him. Because really what he's been doing is he's been doing his job, all right? That's what keepers do. They make saves. And then all of a sudden, he saved us. That's because we weren't expecting him to be saved. That's probably what it was. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Forster's been good, yeah, given the circumstances. But he's not been amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not been doing worldies. You know, he's done what you expect a Premier League goalkeeper to do. And I just want to keep some, not knocking him. I appreciate the work because we needed it and we do need it. But I'm also not getting carried away with his performances.
Well, he made a first good save with his legs was in the 44th minute, actually, because although they had a lot of the dominated the game, Rangers, they didn't actually do a lot with the ball. If that had been us, people would have been complaining like we couldn't finish our dinner. So it would have been the same. But like, I mean,
the much maligned Foster. Let's get that in there, because when he first come in, everyone, we're going to get knobbed we're going to get stuffed every game. But to be honest, without him, we'd have bloody lost them all. Because let's face it, if Rangers had a striker last night, they would have won, 3-1, 4-1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Right. Forster was much maligned for the penalty shootout against Fulham in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, it's like a tree. A tree falls quicker than Forster. It gets down quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be very cruel as a fan base, and it's usually most of the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that save in the 84th minute when the players were blasted, it's just pinged off him like a ping ball and went wide. I thought that was in all the way.
Honestly, well, to be honest, Adrian, as I told you backstage, I've just picked up new glasses. I got to wear glasses constantly now. These are the readers. My normal ones are over there. When Tottenham are on, I'm refusing to wear any glasses, so it's all blurred, and it'll probably be better.
Yeah. Yeah, so they didn't. I mean, they could. I mean, they put a couple of good crosses in, but there was never no one in to get on the end of them when they were for Rangers. I mean, let's be fair, guys. Alan, they're not a good side, Rangers, are they? They're not.
Well, certainly not.
And if I can just jump in, they never had a full team because they rested players because they got a cup final Sunday, I believe.
Celtic,
against Celtic,
yeah.
Look, they're in the Scottish Premier League, which is not the Premier League. These teams, truthfully, I don't think any of these teams should be able to beat teams in the Premier League. Otherwise, they'd be in the Premier. I know that they couldn't, but those players would be in the Premier League. So I don't rate them at the same level, but we certainly made a good run of making them look amazing, I think, in yesterday's game. But they aren't very good. If we played the way we played against Man City or Aston Villa or Man United, I think we dominate that game and make them look like a league below the Premier League team. But unfortunately, we didn't. And it's funny. You could tell early in the game that there was no soul in the way we were playing. It was just kind of like half-hearted passes. They really weren't trying, and you could see it was more on show because Rangers were trying. They were doing everything they could to try to penetrate. And even then, with our weakened condition, with our back line the way it is and everything, they still had difficulty getting through. It started to become easier as the game went on. They were getting through a lot more easily, but we were also making a lot of mistakes. Porro made a bunch of he had probably the worst game I've seen him have in a long time. And it's easier to say who had a good game than to say who had a bad game. And that's unfortunate. This is the Europa League. We're not going to win the Premier League or even come close. So we were kind of hoping that Europa would be that thing for us. But the way we played yesterday doesn't give me a lot of hope for the future, once we get, assuming we qualify for the round of 16, right? That's the next phase of this. And I don't know how well we will do. There are teams that just want it more, regardless of injuries. They could still want it and try their best and fail.
Yeah.
They just didn't try their best yesterday.
Yeah, well, it goes down to 24 teams. It's the 25th team, right? So because you've got 16 in the playoffs, Alan, so one win virtually guarantees us we're through. It would be a shame. It would be an embarrassment to go through and do a playoff game, but we're virtually through as we are now. I mean, I think like one win against Hoffenheim or Elfsborg, and we're there. On to these, Eugene, you Doggy and Paro, your take on those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Poro had a shocker. As I said before, both of them are riding on fumes. I'm afraid we're a game away from Udogi being hurt and Poro being hurt. Poro, he was always weak on the defensive end, but at least he gave us something in the front third. His crossing, his awareness in the final third. But last couple of games, he does neither. So he needs a rest. Udogi needs a rest, but we just don't have anybody else.
We may see Spence.
Yeah, Spence. I hope so. I hope
we see
Spence.
You don't know. I don't know. We'll come to that. Yeah,
but Udogi, nobody can give him a break. So, and I feel for him. He hasn't been on form since last year when he got hurt.
Yeah,
and there's nobody else to give him cover, which is a travesty. I mean,
So, and he didn't have a proper pre-season because he was coming from injury. I mean, I like the player, but he just hasn't got his mojo back yet.
But ultimately, a question for Guy, right? Ultimately, I was thinking about it. Both Poro and Udogi were bought for Conte and his system, right, as attacking wingbacks. So now I'm thinking in isolation, they're good players. I like both of them. However, do they fit what Ange wants to do? And so that's the question to me. Again, right? Sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't. So the question is it their skill set, or is it that just like with half of our starters who Ange didn't buy, they were bought for Conte and Noonan, whoever, they just, I don't know if they fit what Ange wants to do. So
just to clear,
too much what he wants them to do. It's just far too much.
Yeah. Just to cheer Graham up, I'm going to say they are square pegs in round holes. Because I know Graham will appreciate that.
Deji, these two guys.
Yeah, look. Archie Gray, I'm going to actually do a show about him over Christmas. A friend of mine who is a Leeds fan said he is of good stock. He is really the bee's knees. What I don't like with Archie Gray, I mean, again, Postecoglou almost now, the more he speaks, the more I'm actually getting more annoyed with him, because he talks about them being young and needing time to develop. I don't know how you can develop in your first season at such a big club, playing 3 different positions that aren't your position. Archie Gray is left back, right back, centre back, and he is a number 6. That's what
he's in goal Sunday. He's in goal Sunday.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're talking about looking after the youngsters. The future's bright for these lads, but you're ruining them. You know what I mean? Because at the moment, the fan base are not getting to see what Archie Gray is actually what he could bring to the table. I'm talking about Ethan Nwaneri at Arsenal. You can tell he's a baller. And I'm looking at Archie Gray and Bergvall thinking, what have we been left with? Do you get what I'm saying? So Archie Gray, I think is very difficult to judge. All we can do is judge him on the fact that he's been asked to do a job this season, and that's about it. Are we going to see maybe a glimpse of what he can be this season? I don't think so, and that is poor management from Postecoglou. As for Dragushin, he's a disaster. He is a disaster. Not a disaster. What is clear is he's a good old-fashioned centre-back. He is a Tony Adams. He is a Sol Campbell. He wants the ball. He's a John Terry. The ball comes in the air, I'll knock it out. Yeah? Give the ball to feet. I'll hoof it up to the right wing. I'll hoof it into the middle. This bloody high line thing makes Dragushin look like he doesn't know how to defend, because that is not the Dragusin I watched during the Euros playing and commanding the box for Romania. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not the same guy. And because of it, I dislike him in the back line. I really don't like him there. He's also like, I have no confidence in him. And then I say to myself, Romero's a liability. I would rather Dragusin. I don't think I do. I don't think I'd rather Dragusin. I think I'd rather Romero, to be honest with you. That's why Romero had to come in against Chelsea, because he's a mess.
Alan, on Gray, though, I mean, he gave the ball away a few times yesterday, trying to progress. Fair play to him for trying to progress the ball. But he's got good pace, good recovery, he's good tackler, he's good in the air. I mean, like, I've watched a lot of this player, though. I've watched him before he comes to this club, so I'm a fan, right? Dragusin, jury's out. I mean, you can't judge these players on a few games. You've got to wait till at least they've got a season behind them, right? But what's your take on Gray and Dragusin?
So I feel I feel bad for both of them. Honestly, I think they've been handed a raw deal. So Gray and Dragusin both need someone who can take them under their wing. They really do that, because Dragusin looks better when he's standing next to Romero or he's standing next to Ben Davies, more Ben Davies even than Romero. Someone that will kind of lead him. They're so young. I mean, Dragusin's really young. Archie Gray's only 18. Man, I can't even remember 18. But I certainly know I wasn't going to be mature enough to be on the first team for a top football club like Tottenham Hotspur, and left to my own. Left on my own, which is kind of like what Archie Gray is. He's picking up games because he must have been the guy that volunteers, like, hey man, if you need me in this position or this position or this position, I just want to get out on the pitch. And I feel like that became Archie Gray's role, is kind of just like, well, where do we need someone? He's going to put a plug in our leaky ship here. And it's not fair to him. It really isn't. He needs to be played in the position that he knows how to play very well, that is most comfortable to him. And then once he's got enough experience, if he wants to wander around and go to different roles to try them out or to help out wherever, I could see that happening. But to start doing the opposite, it does him no service. And same with Dragusin. Dragusin, I think, is a victim of his own management, where he was been hyped up as something, and I feel like we got all hype and very little bang for our buck currently. But I don't think that that's necessarily his fault. I don't know how they're learning on the practice pitch. I don't know what goes on in practice. I don't know what kind of leadership guidance he's getting, but I think he looks clueless when he's out there. He looks big-eyed and unsure of what's going on. He doesn't have great what's it called? He doesn't know where he is on the pitch. Sometimes he
positional play,
his positional play is not that great. His awareness and his, he doesn't know necessarily where to put the ball. He just kind of heads the ball, or he kind of kicks the ball. He doesn't have like a plan in mind, where, someone like Romero generally will look down the pitch and has an idea of where things can go, because he has that experience. Dragusin just doesn't have that experience yet. So I feel bad for both of them. I think that they both didn't. Archie Gray didn't have a terrible game, but he didn't have a good game. And Dragusin didn't have a disaster game, but he also didn't have a good game. Our defense looked very weak against a team that we should have bullied. And Again, I want to be fair to Dragic and Gray. I think that Poro and Udogie yesterday had shocking performances, both of them. And they're supposed to be the people that would maybe help out in absence of a solid, experienced center back, because they're back there with them. We're like, hey, give them something. I don't know. But they weren't helped by the wingbacks. So they had a very difficult game yesterday, and it just didn't work out. I mean, we're talking as if we lost. We tied 1-1, but still, they shouldn't have. They were getting in and they were penetrating us yesterday through the defense. So, I mean, some of that's got to be laid down at Dragic and Gray's feet. But ultimately, I don't hold them accountable any more than I would any other regular player. And they're so young. Ange talked about it in his interviews. How he was upset at Timo because we have these 18-year-olds in the club. He's playing youth, and I think Ange is getting frustrated with just how much youth he actually has. I don't know if it was by his design or not, but he's becoming a victim of this, of the negatives of having a glut of youth and very little experience. And when your experience gets injured, where are you? You're left with where we're at.
Can I just say about the centre backs? I know you've moved on, Adrian, right? But which two centre backs look good in this system? To be honest, right? All right.
In general, Ben Davies has looked pretty good, is solid.
Yeah, but I mean, you can say Van der Ven because he can run like Roadrunner, and you can say Romero because he's experienced. But none of our defenders have looked brilliant with this stupid high line system.
It's hard on them.
And where's Van der Ven now? He's on the shelf for God knows how long because he pulled his hamstring. It all goes back to this stupid system, which is going to cost Ange's job. Let's face it, it's around the corner, right? And that's it. If we had someone that would sit back a little bit, not exploit all these players, and sort of running about like headless chickens, stop Poro and Udogie disappearing up the other end of the pitch, and keep them back a little bit, and so because the only reason Poro and Udogie are so bloody tired is because they keep having to run back 80 yards. We're at the other end of the pitch most of the game. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. This system might have worked in Scotland, but it's definitely not working in the Premier League.
Well, Eugene, let's move on, right? We'll move on to Basuma, Bentancur and Maddison. And I just think most of our problems stem from midfield, not from at the back personally. If you can't feed your front three, and it's all right saying they're looking crap, and they did look crap yesterday, but, where's the service? Similarly, the midfield should also be helping out defensively as well. It's the crucial part of the pitch, isn't it? It always is. I mean, these guys, I mean, all right, Bentancur's not got the sharpness. He might be a bit, because he hasn't been in the team, he hasn't been playing regular, so his sharpness seemed to be a bit gone yesterday. He did look a bit as though he was tiring to me, but these guys, I mean, they need to step up or get out of this club.
Yeah, no, we talked about Basuma and Maddison. I mean, I want both of them out. They're not good enough mentality-wise. Bentancur, he wasn't great. He was okay. But I think with him, I give him more of a benefit of the doubt, just given, before his injuries, he was our best player under Conte before a string of unlucky injuries. So I'm still holding out hope. If he stays fit, he can be on this team. Whether he starts, I'm not sure. He's definitely not a 6 that we need. But I like him as a player, and I think he has the right mentality as well. Basuma and Maddison,
it's in the fridge.
I mean, I feel for Basuma, I guess, because he's not a 6, right? when he played well for Brighton, he was more of an 8, right? And as an 8, he might do better. But again, I just don't think he has tactical awareness. I don't think he has the mentality. He's definitely not good enough. And Madison, I mean, I talked about Madison. He need, I want to see him gone. Like Madison, I hate the word Spursy, but he is the definition of Spursy. He is the embodiment of our team, right? Up and down, up and down. Man, seeing him roll around on the pitch, holding his ankles while we need, to go back and try to score another goal. Just, man, my blood is boiling every time I see him do that. So, and against Chelsea, our midfield was wide open, was cut through. Like in most games where we struggle, our midfield is non-existent, or it doesn't do what they're supposed to do. And Adrian, as you mentioned, we definitely have defensive issues, but a lot of it stems from our midfield not being able to control the ball and not being able to progress the ball as well. And the turnovers are killing us, right? In the Chelsea game, Bissouma gives the ball away and then he commits a penalty. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. So I feel like if our midfield was solid, if we had a proper 6, I feel like on the defensive end, we would do better. And we would also do better on the defensive end against the low blocks too. So, to answer your question, none of them had a good game at all. And they were mostly responsible, in my book, for why we didn't have a good game.
I've said for a while that a fit Bentancur, and he was just getting back to his pre-ACL best. We know Kulu's been moved into midfield, but we know Kulu will be used in the various positions. I can see him playing inside right and at right wing again. Because where there's a need, Kulu steps up.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Mark, really quick. So I'm looking at Nigel's comment about Madison. He's a good player. And then simply says, well, he's been played out of position. I mean, I'm getting tired of kind of those excuses, right? If you're an elite player, if you're a good player, even if you're out of position sometimes, I want to see effort. You might not get it done with Kulu, Solanke. Like, so with Solanke, he does not score enough goals for me, but at least I'm seeing effort. Poro, he might be bad, but at least I'm seeing effort. For Madison, I just don't see effort in most of the games. And for me, that's why when I'm gone. It's not his skill. It's not him being out of position. Just the effort isn't there. He's not playing hard for the badge. And that for me isn't on tactics. That for me is on him personally. So.
And he's been given, the thing is, even the Man United game, all right, it was his birthday. We don't want to turn him up every birthday, do we? Just on his birthday. But Deji, I mean, like with Madison, I mean,
every day is his birthday.
Instead of playing more forward as a more forward 10, right? He's been allowed to sort of drop more centrally, right? Where he's got more room. It isn't the system that's killing him. He's just not performing, is he?
Yeah, he's just not performing. And then Eugene's absolutely spot on. Look, we can all lose a game of football. We're not asking our team to go unbeaten. I think for me, when you're a professional Premier League player, we just want to see you put in a shift. That's why we like Kulusevski so much. Because even if Kulusevski is a bad game, the one thing you will get out of Kuli is he puts in his shift. He works hard. And these players are playing way within themselves and they don't seem to be bothered. And I just look around, I look around the league and you've got Rodgers at Aston Villa, you've got, Alex Scott at Bournemouth. They're all putting in shifts. And I'm like, I take these players over our players all day long. And you've got a problem when you're going to the likes of Bournemouth and you're able to identify 4 or 5 players in their starting lineup that you would prefer over your starting lineup. That's when you're in the mud. There's 4 or 5 for them. So look, Madders hasn't. He's just not that guy. I think it's fair to say he isn't. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to pride ourselves on having at least one standout player. I remember David Ginola, we had Klinsmann, we had Kane.
Hoddle, Gaza,
Hoddle.
Hoddle.
We
Yeah.
got no one in this team.
No.
It's the worst team ever. I can't even lie to you. This is crap. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, look.
Yeah.
I don't want us to keep looking to Madders. Madders is just a symptom of what's going on at the club, which is that we have fallen off. You know, he was at Leicester, for crying out loud. The way we talk about Madders is as if he was coming from AC Milan or Barcelona. It was at Leicester, yeah. And where were they? Championship, yeah. Let's be honest with ourselves. The other thing is, just to quickly say, again, love Postecoglou, but he's a madman. Everything he has said in the press conferences has come back and bit him in the face. He said he doesn't want a 6. He doesn't do 6s. Well, we need a bloody 6. That's why they all run. The problem is they're all confused. Because I didn't get that midfield yesterday. It looked like Madders, Bentancur, and Bissouma were doing a flat line. I don't know if you noticed that, but I didn't know who was playing the 10. Like, legitly, they were all just everywhere. So for me, it does go down to the coaching. The players don't understand the system, and then they're being made to do doggies, and it's just not working.
Yeah, if you're not playing a 6, you need 2 box-to-box number 8s to do their share of defending at the back, don't you? I mean, like, you've got, and that's what's not happening without the 6. But on the Maddison thing, I mean, like, I remember last season, people were complaining because Decky wasn't at his best last season. Everyone wanted to see his debut season form when he came in January and got the 8 goals and assists and all that. But the one thing with a player like Decky is, though, if he's not assisting or scoring goals, he'll still put a shift in for you. He'll still put the work ethic in. And that's what we want to see from these other midfielders, Alan, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, Bissouma had not the first time. He had a shocking game, I think. And I like to think, as a fan, I try to think about where their head's at. And I'm guessing that Bissouma's head, Eve's head's just not in it right now. I don't know what's going on for him, but because I watched him at Brighton, albeit he was playing in a different position, I believe, but he was really good. And I was really jazzed when we got him. So I know he can do better. You know, I still kind of believe in him as a player, but I just don't think he's putting in the shifts that we need him to put in. Bentancur, personally, I probably would not have taken Bentancur out, but I mean, hindsight's 2020. He brought 3 people in, and it made a difference. I think Bentancur was tired, but Bentancur has such a high ceiling, and yes, he had a piss poor game yesterday, but so did everybody, and Bentancur didn't stand out to me as the problem yesterday. Same with Maddison. I don't think Maddison was really the problem yesterday. It was a team performance, and it was just really horrible in general. We had one bright moment where Kulu scored the goal. Other than that, I mean, we had an opportunity. I think Brendan Johnson kind of put it over the bar or something like that. But we just never really looked like we were in it. We couldn't really penetrate them. So I don't know if that was necessarily on the midfield. Maybe it was on the midfield a bit. I think that individual performances stood out yesterday. And I know we'll get to him, so I'll wait to talk about Kulu. But in general, even Kulu, outside of his goal, was getting bullied. And I'm sort of in shock at what I saw yesterday. I'm still sort of not sure I'm digesting it, because this is a team that I thought we're just gonna roll over Rangers. We need to put in the effort, but I figured this is something we should be doing. And I don't usually think that when it comes to our opponents. But I was like, this is the Scottish Premier League. We need to show just how much better the Premier League is. We need to win this game because we need to clinch in Europa to the next stage. And yeah, but they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. They had no heart. And I don't know what's causing that. I got to imagine some of that's a fault on the players, and some of that's a fault on the coach. Everybody's probably to blame.
So just quickly, and before we drop this, look, when you watch Liverpool, when they struggle, who is the player who takes control? Salah, right? Many games when they struggle, they don't look good. Salah makes something happen. When City used to struggle, KDB or Rodri, they made something happen and they won those games. On our team, those senior players or those elite players, that's supposed to be Son and Maddison. And game in, game out, they just don't do it. So for me, it's kind of that the leadership. We don't have a leader in the midfield, and I'm going to steal it from Sava. But when we look at the starting lineup, game in, game out, we don't have even one player who'd be like, you know what, this player is going to be in the starting lineup every single day, every single game. It doesn't matter who we play. We can make a case for Kulu, for Maddison, for Bissouma, for Bentancur. They're all interchangeable in a way.
Yeah, there's only one Vicario. He played every game last season.
But in the midfield, we don't have that person.
No.
So saying that Maddison had a great game against City, great. And when we look at his stats end of the year, he's going to have his goals and assists. But those numbers will come against 2 or 3 teams. But against 10 other teams, it's nothing. And I put the same on Son as well. But that's a different conversation.
Deji, these 3. I mean, all right. I gave a lot of blame to the midfield. If you can't do it in the midfield, it needs a revamp anyway. I mean, we need at least one. Apart from the left back, we obviously need a dynamic quality midfielder, don't we? Because you've got to win, at least compete in midfield, which we didn't yesterday. If you compete 50-50 and you've got the quality and you have 50% of the game, you should still come out on top, or if you're away, get the draw or something like, you know. But these 3, I mean, I'm sure I'm like you. I've never been a fan of Werner. I've warmed to Johnson. He's got 10 goals this season. The wingers have been told to hug the touchline, right? So they stay out there for the out ball. But whereas the midfielders aren't giving them the out ball, they're not getting the out ball. And we badly missed a number 9, a central focus like Lancashire. He does press, actually. He does press. But, you know, Andrew's probably got his reasons. Well, I've got other players I want to bring on and rest, so I'm not putting Lancashire on unless it's a desperate moment. But the Son, Werner, Johnson, I mean,
Adrian, I have to say, you know, when you look at that front 3, you've actually got to give Postecoglou some applause, because for us to have been the highest goal scorers, I know, you know, Solanke should be there rather than Son. But he's got to be working miracles, because that's got to be the worst front 3 I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just going to be quite blunt. That is not a front 3 that is scaring anybody. Son, Werner, and Johnson. Oh, I mean, are you joking? That is a championship front 3 at best. That is crap. There is no. I mean, Son is a legend, but this is not Son of 26, 27. We're talking of Son who's going to be 33. He's just not the same Son. And why we didn't prepare for this I'm at odds. Timo Werner has got to be is crap. And Brennan Johnson has got tap-ins. He's unable to beat a player 1v1. I would rather rule Fox on the right wing than Brennan Johnson. So he's absolutely terrible, but he has got the goals. And sometimes the goals paper over what we actually see week in, week out. That is not a front 3. Ipswich's front 3 is more scary than this. And that's why, you know, I didn't want to say it before, but we need a miracle. We talked about relegation. I'm telling you that Bournemouth as a front 11 competes with Spurs. I'm telling you that. Could you imagine West Ham? You know, West Ham's front three is Bowen, Kudos, and Paqueta. Just let that sink in.
All three of them would walk into our team.
You know what?
All three of them.
You know what I'm saying? Oh,
Yeah.
Hear them start for Spurs. West Ham's front three. Let that sink in. We are in a mess if this is what we are offering people. We are in a mess.
But don't forget, Deji. But don't forget, Deji. We built the £1 billion stadium to compete with the top teams. You know what I'm saying?
We bought the £1 billion stadium to walk our way into League One. I'll see you at Colchester. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
Yeah, I mean, we know that we've been to the story about the recruitment's not been good since the stadium's been built. We spent fortunes in money, just haven't got the right players in. Yeah, but to me, I wanted a left back and I wanted Eze in, who didn't in the summer transfer window. But with Charleston being made of glass, it just shows that. And he's young, Lancashire, good goal scorer, but you know he needs to develop as well. And we badly need another number 9, because when we've played these front three together, on paper it's very pacey. I get what Andrew's trying to do. I thought we were going to destroy them yesterday. Another thing, football can make a fool of all of us at times. I thought we were really going to destroy it, Rangers, yesterday. And like, there was no one in the centre for the ball. Even when we got the ball wide, there's no one there. There's just no one there. Unless you tell Son to stay there and he can get bullied, you know. I mean, so this to me, I think it looks good. It's fast. But Werner, even had a chance to go past the man, he didn't seem bothered. We'll come to the press conference later. But we need another number 9. We definitely need another number 9, even though we've got, you know, I mean, Lancashire's good enough. Why do you keep Lancashire then and send Iloji Velez out to Seville, right? Who's very good in the air, right? And like he's developing as well, right? But then if you're keeping Lancashire, you're sending a message to him. You know, you scored 23 goals last year in the league and you got over 30 goals in with the cup games and all that. I mean, you do look very good. Well, give him game time. Let us see what he's like. He scored and got sent off in that game, didn't he? But he was in the right place to score. He's got good striker's instincts. But at this level with a lot of the young kids, and I watched all the academy games last year, I mean, a lot of them will be sold. Like Chelsea make a profit out of this system, Man City do, and we'll follow that route. You know, those that don't make it will be sold. You know, but he's on the bench. I mean, I would like to have seen him start yesterday, because I thought if you're going to rest Solanke, then you play Lancashire. Because we looked better, Deji, when he came on, Solanke, didn't we? When we had that 9 in there, we looked better.
Yeah. It's just, look, what I can't understand is that, you know, I've been joking about with people, but I actually rate Harry Redknapp as a manager.
I'd have him back tomorrow. He just keeps it simple. Mm-hmm. You're a striker, you stay up top. Yeah, you're a left back, you stay on the left. He doesn't keep it complicated. He used to just play the players. What's your best position? What your centre mid are? All right, go centre mid. What you're a right winger? Right, go right wing. Keep it simple. That's all you have to do. Lancashire or Solanke, number 9's target man. Why would you play Son up top as a number 9? Why?
I was just about to ask.
It's madness. I don't get it. Brennan Johnson for me is our Trossard. I don't give a damn how many goals he's scored. He's better when he comes on than when he starts. Fresh legs for a team that's getting tired. He can get in behind them. That's how you use Brennan Johnson. You don't use him to start the game unless you're going to do Nottingham Forest football, which is to hit the ball straight and let him run onto it and pass the ball in the back of the net. But we want to pass the feet. So therefore, use him, let him come on. And then Timo Werner. I mean, the fact that he's saying that he's angry at Timo Werner, we've been angry for the past year. What he's been doing.
More than.
What he's been doing. It's not new. So I don't get it. I don't get it, honestly.
Eugene, on reflection, I actually thought Ange got the subs right, actually, when he brought them on. I mean, like, you had Basuma went off, Johnson went off, Bentancur went off, but hang on. Yeah, and Solanke, Bergvall, and Sarr come on. What's your take on the substitutions?
I mean, he didn't have many options, right? I mean, Bergvall did well. Big up, Edge.
Big up, guys. Sorry, thanks for having me.
Oh, cheers, Deji.
See you, Deji. Thanks for
Great to
coming.
see you.
I'll come on your show, Chris. Oh, he's gone. 1 second.
But yeah, I mean, he did. Ange does not have many options. So obviously, Solanke and Kulu, regardless who they came for, they would make an impact, which they did. Bergvall, I thought, was pretty good. Again, he's young. He had some good moments and bad moments. Overall, I thought he was good. But as I said before, we just don't have game changers on the bench. Solanke does what he does, but we don't have wingers who give him service. Right?
Yeah.
His best attribute is heading the ball. He's great in the air, but we don't have anybody who can cross other than Poro. And Poro, for some reason, stopped crossing. So now Solanke has to drop deep. He does great in pressing. He holds up the ball. He links up play. But Son, Johnson, and whoever else is playing on the wings, not only they can't cross the ball, they can't take their man on, and now they're not clinical either. So that's why you see Solanke, he does what he can, he links up play, but the service isn't there. But even with that said, he still was one of our best players when he came on.
Alan, Solanke, I mean, his goals, I don't think he scored a headed goal this season. I'll be staying corrected if he has.
Or one.
But he can finish with his feet. He did the back heel away at Galatasaray and all that. He's got good awareness. He's got a striker's instinct in the box, definitely. But because, go on, your take on him as a player.
I like Solanke. Solanke in a stronger squad in a stronger squad, and like Eugene pointed out, where he's getting service, I think Solanke is just killing it because the guy kind of like what Harry Kane used to do. He tracks back. He likes to help out. He doesn't like to just stand all the way up top. And when it comes to his work rate, it's very underrated. He's a workhorse player. The fact that he hasn't scored a lot of goals again, he's not getting the service, and I don't know if he's the type of player that can kind of weave between a bunch of different players or whatever and strike it himself. So without the service, he's kind of left hanging out to dry. And all he can do is the dirty work in the midfield. That's really it. But we desperately need that because you can tell the difference in how we play when he's not on the field. Just like the first half. In the first half, we missed his work rate. We really did.
Eugene, he's not. I always like players. When I look at the videos and people say to me, what you look for? If you're talking about midfielders and the front three, I'm always looking for players with vision and move the ball quickly, who can make things happen. But
1 minute, Adrian. 1 minute. Chang's asking you a question.
He'll have to wait. Right. So in the I'll come to it in a minute, Chang. You caught me halfway through.
All right.
But he's not a Son or Kane in his prime, is he, Eugene, that makes things happen? He's a decent dribbler as well when he's got the ball. He does hold the ball up well. Where's he gone?
Who?
Right. Eugene.
No, I'm here. Sorry.
All right. Okay.
Am I still on? Yep. No, Solanke, I rate him. I think he's a good player. I think he fits what Ange wants to do, but again, he doesn't get the service. And then when he links up play, I think he helps Johnson. But again, we don't have the forwards or, Son and Johnson. They're not.
Send him the link, Mark. Send him the link.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Cool. Sorry, Eugene.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. But again, I rate him as a player. He just he doesn't play. I feel like he makes others better, but the players around him don't help him get better, if that makes sense. The service isn't there, and then when he does link up play, I feel like players are not in the right positions to take advantage of that. I feel like Johnson is much better with Solanke on the pitch, because I feel like they have a pretty good chemistry where Solanke, when he goes deep, he picks up the ball, he finds Johnson at times. But him and Sonny, I'm not sure if the chemistry is there.
Mark, the thing that puzzles me, and I'm always looking for hidden details, is Ange really wanted Solanke in, right? To suit his system of play. We know you don't like the system, to suit his system of play. But then what gets me is he wants him because he wants that focal point in the centre of the three strikers. And then he plays three wingers yesterday and doesn't put a striker on to suit the system. I mean, that I get perplexed by things like that.
Now, from what I've heard, I haven't researched it, and I don't watch Celtic, to be honest, but Celtic striker, when Andrew was there and they did the treble, he didn't score that many goals. It was normally the goals you see Johnson scoring. Like a ball from the side, come across, say from the left, and your right winger's tapping it in, back post. And so I don't believe, if anyone knows, I'll be corrected, but I don't believe Celtic's main striker scored many goals.
Was it Furuhashi, I think, right? Furuhashi.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, I've not researched it whatsoever, so this is just me talking waffle. Like their striker didn't score that many goals, but Solanke, right, for the work rate he does, suits the system 100%. If Ange insists on playing this stupid system that I don't like everyone running about like headless chickens, like he wants us to win the ball back high. He wants us to win the ball back, like really high up the pitch, and then basically run at the defence. Right, and Solanke fits that down to the ground. He really does. Because he's non-stop running. Is he the greatest finisher? No. But the thing that perplexes me is when he is playing, who the hell crosses it into his head? He scored like loads of goals with his head when he was at Bournemouth. Loads.
Yeah.
Did somebody say he scored one header for us?
Or none. One or
none. It's one or none. That's because no one bloody crosses it to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting with the crosses, Alan, isn't it? Because and I'll come to you next, Chen. The thing with the crosses is Ange likes not the daisy cutters along the grass. He either likes them knee high or waist high because they're very hard to defend against. They are, if you get them right. If you hit a cross, I think overall crosses into the box, I think if you Google it, anyone wants to Google it, the last time I looked a couple of seasons ago, it was about 1 in 64 result in a goal, right? So I get that. So I get that why you've really got to be pumping crosses into that box a load of time. Like
Adrian,
away at Villa last year when I think you'd put the cross in for Madison to come in between the centre backs. That's the sort of cross I think Angie's looking for. Go on, Eugene. Sorry.
Yeah, just a question for you guys. So the goal that Solanke scored against Chelsea, right, on that low cross, as you were saying, I don't recall many games this year when he was in position to do that. So the question is, why is that? Is he dropping too deep on his own? Is Ange telling him to drop deep? Because I feel like, unlike Johnson, if Solanke is supposed to be there on the end of low crosses like he did against Chelsea, I haven't seen it many times this year. So what do you think that is? Is it on him, or is Ange telling him not to be in the box?
I think the way the system is, it's like a bit like when you play wing backs, and if one's got the ball and he bursts down the wing, the other wing back should be coming in on a far post. I think it's the same with the wingers. That's why Johnson's getting them. And it's not just with Johnson, though. I mean, like, it takes intelligent awareness and good time and an instinct to be in the right position. There's not some of his finishes this season have been the highest quality finishes. The one
with Johnson, sure, but for me, Solanke is not in the box enough to get on the end of those chances, and I'm not sure why that is. He's too deep for me on
Yeah.
occasion.
Yeah. Chang, your take on Solanke and what Eugene just said, because I mean, I think we're judging players that he's a new face in the club, isn't he? Have we really had a good sample of him, really? We know he's a good worker. Fans like him. Obviously, he's there to score goals, though, isn't he?
Yes, he definitely is, Mrs. Roker. And before I get ahead, thank you so very much for the StreamYard link, Mr. Cousins. Greetings.
No worries, mate. No worries.
It's been far too long since I've been on this channel, but coming back to Solanke, without further ado, I mean, this is why, I mean, Mrs. Roka, you should know this when we first started this channel way back. I think it was either in August or even July, when I was just bemoaning the lack of pre-season Solanke got with us. And we are really just paying it upfront. We are just now having to reap what we sow from giving him so little minutes with us and giving him the proper time to properly bed in and gel with the rest of the team. And this is actually why players like him, when you need that synergy, that understanding, that operating on the same wavelength with the rest of your team, that really irks me, that really gets under my skin. And all of this that we're seeing now, I mean, let's look at the let's just not look at the goals that Solanke has been able to score. How about the near misses, the chances that he's been able to carve out either by himself or with the help of his teammates, and those also near misses that could have really helped us a great deal lot if you look at the narrow losses or even the hard-fought draws. And I sincerely really do hope that if it does last beyond this season, which is more than likely, given our lack of quality up front, he will be scoring double figures easily in seasons to come, regardless of who's at the helm, regardless if it's still Big Ange beyond this season or God knows who is going to be managing us come next season and beyond. But Solanke will score. He might even score on Sunday at St. Mary's against Southampton, but we have to wait and see. And as far as being prolific, being able to do what strikers do, he definitely strikes me as the kind of striker who would score easily more goals than, say, a Roberto Soldado, a Vincent Janssen, possibly even this Richarlison, from what Richarlison did for us last season. So yes, just keep the faith in Solanke. The goals will come, whether that's on his own effort or through assists from his teammates. I think Madison, Kulusevski, Son, and Johnson have to find some way to work it out with him. But the goals will come from Solanke. Of that, I am fairly confident. He will be able to justify his £60 million price tag. And this is a very important thing, if we are to get anything from the remainder of our season, I think one of the more important, if not the most important players in the entire Ange Ball system, if we can still call it that, the final end product has to come from Solanke more often than not. It's just a question of how soon are we going to see that final product from Solanke on a consistent basis. Currently, it's just in patches, even more so inconsistent than Richarlison from last season. And that's how bad his consistency has been. But once he gets firing, the goals will come. But as I just mentioned earlier, it's only a matter of when now. And of course, each and every single one of us, I have absolutely no doubt, would rather see that come sooner rather than later. Let's just keep our fingers crossed it comes as soon as Sunday against Southampton at St. Mary's. Back to you, Mr. Stroker.
Alan, we look at disjointed side that lack cohesion at times, and when we play well, we're on point with our passing. Maybe we flat track bullies. When it clicks, we look awesome, right? When it doesn't, we look bad. I mean, Ange's got a 50.79% win ratio. It was 58 before we went on this run, right? He was doing okay in my book. Now it's sort of like 50-50. I don't see the ball getting rid of him, because then all the guns will be aimed at them. It's just if it happened, it would happen in the summer. Look, we're in 3 cup competitions. I've heard Spurs fans, even Mark, is effused about, we win the FA Cup or something like that, and Ange keeps his job. But to me, if you won the FA Cup and you finished mid-table, to me that's still papering over the cracks. This squad needs, additions, and we're not going to
100%.
We're not going to fill the additions we need in January. At most, we'd get 2 players in. Yeah.
My God, but we need. I would change up almost 50% of this team. I mean, something's got to give. Either Ange goes and we have a new system in place where it's better suits the players at the coach's disposal, or they get rid of a bunch of players again. We're good at getting rid of players. We're not good at getting rid of players when we should be getting rid of players, but we're good at loaning them out and sending them out. We did a lot of business that way not too long ago, sending out a lot of players, getting rid of a lot of players. But it's now biting us in the ass. Probably 1 or 2 in the January window, I think. But it will be papering over cracks, as you said, Adrian. I mean, really, we need far more depth. And when I say depth, I don't mean backup to a first team player. I mean, we need some first team players with experience now. We can't really buy more youth. We need people that are proven Premier League ready players, and they're out there to fill some of these roles, so that the youth and everyone else can just start playing the positions that they were always supposed to play. It's going to be a tough restructure. I mean, where we're at now, I think, is worse off than where we were when Ange first arrived. And it makes me worried about that. When I was thinking about this yesterday, I was like, well, are we better off now than we were when Ange first arrived 18 months ago or whatever? And I don't think so. I think we had a stronger team then.
Yeah, definitely. 1,000,000%.
Okay.
1,000,000%. Right. Hang on a minute, Adrian. Right. What was I saying in the summer when I came on here and we were signing the likes of Archie Gray and Bergvall and all that? I said that I don't mind these players coming in as long as we get first team ready players. That is the one thing. Right, I don't want signed players that may be good in 3 or 4 years. That's no good to me. That's no good to anybody. Well, it might be in 3 or 4 years, but where is the player we bought? We made one signing in the summer that walked straight into the first team, Solanke. And even he wasn't the marquee signing, if you know what I mean, right? I want players to come into this club, especially now we built this £1 billion cash machine, right? And we were promised that we would be competing with the likes of Man City and the people that win everything. I'm not going to mention no more names because you'll play the clips, right? But all these teams that we're meant to be competing with, and yet we don't. I want players to come into this club that whoever plays in their position, he says, right, that shirt's mine now, and if you want it, you got to fight your way to get it back. It's like I said, Solanke is the only one that walked straight into our bloody first team, and don't forget Harry Kane left, so we have nobody else. All right, we had Richarlison, but the thing is with him, your best ability is availability, and when he gets bloody injured getting out of bed in the morning. You know what I mean?
Eugene, we've actually in January, we've not done badly in January transfer windows, even though it's a month and it's not really a lot of time you can bring players in. But I mean, apart from Dan Juma, we brought in Delhi, we brought in Mora, we brought in Kulu and
Bentancur,
and we brought in Porro, right? All good players in my opinion, right? So if we bring in 2 in January, Right, I'm going to ask you all the same question. What positions, and can you name any players that you particularly like? It doesn't matter if you can't. Eugene.
I mean, we definitely need a left back. We need a midfielder and a striker, in my book. Obviously, we're not going to get all three, but in order, I would say left back, striker, and the midfielder. That's who I would go with.
Any particular names?
I mean, Robinson Fulham is the left back. He plays on the left, right? I believe he's awesome.
Yep.
I mean, he's American,
He was going to be my buy pick.
Yeah, we're not going to get him. He's too expensive, but I mean, he'd be great. I mean, I think like specific names. I've had a list of names before, but now they escape me. But like just to touch quickly on what the guys said before, I'm not even like any signings in January, as you said, Adrian, they will paper over the cracks, right? Even this season, if we zoom out, my assumption was when Enge came in, when Mon and Lange all came in, we have a structure in the club, we have a direction, there is a style of football that will be playing even after Enge is gone. Because our issue was that we keep changing our styles of play every 2 years, and we buy players who in 2 years don't fit the new manager style. So what I'm hoping is, regardless of whether Enge stays or not, regardless of even our business in January and this year, there is a style of play that any players that do come in, they fit that style of play that the new manager will implement. Because otherwise, we're going to be ending up in the same boat. We'll have offensive players for defensive manager, defensive players for offensive manager, and it's rinse and repeat. So and even the players that were brought in for Enge, for some of them, like Johnson, I don't know if he fits what Enge wants to do. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I just want to see signings that make sense, right? Like in January, I want us, if we get a striker, I want us to get a striker that I'm like, you know what? He fits Enge, and then even if Enge is sacked, I can see how that player will fit into what the club is trying to do.
Well, it'd have to be a striker that presses, and like I said,
exactly. If that's what we're doing
with Enge,
let's do that.
With Enge itself, I'm fully Enge in. One, because while we've got managers at this club, and there's been many that we've had that I've seen come and go, I always support them while they're here, even if I didn't want them. And there's a few I really didn't want, right? And it's the same with the players. You know, when people were booing Davinson Sanchez, that's not me, right? While he's at your club, I mean, get behind him. It's because we're not going to sack him. I mean, unless the noise in the stadium goes up and Levy takes note of them. So I don't see it. Others are saying he's going to get sacked. They might be proved right, or I might be proved right. I don't think that's going to happen.
But Adrian, even if he's sacked, or even if Enge, let's say, stays one more, like Enge is not going to be here for 5 years. He never is. So even if he leaves next year or a year after, there needs to be a plan in place, like in Brighton, right? De Zerbi leaves, Potter leaves. They have already a plan in place, and they continue to play the way they do. Obviously, with some small tweaks. So the only way for us to progress as a club long term is to have the plan in place and the style of play where when Enge does leave, whether he's sacked or not, the players that were brought in for him, they fit the next manager system. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck where we are right now.
Yeah, they are doing it through the 16s all the way up.
Right, exactly.
Playing the same way, right? But these are kids who get winning games at that level is not so important. Like, it's not pressure involved in that. Mark, you can bring 2 players in January. What positions?
Does manager count?
That wasn't the question, was it?
No. But you said 2 positions, so I'm going for manager and chairman. No. All right, but seriously, well, it's got to be a left back, surely, and possible. Well, to be honest, in an ideal world, we want a left back who is a left back, not a left wing back. We want a right back that is a right back and not a right wing back. And you said 2, so there's 2 definitely. But I'd also be on the lookout for a striker. I know he won't because he doesn't play with one. But I'd want a monster number 6, like a Dembele, Wanyama, that sort of character. You know, a Graham Roberts, stick him in there, and like you know what I mean. So someone hard as nails that will stay back. And if we do insist on playing this stupid system where the fullbacks disappear at the other end of the pitch, at least you'll have 3 at the back and not 2.
Chang, if you're bringing in 2 players, what positions?
Wow, I really am spoiled for choice here when it comes to trying to patch up this very patchy team. No, honestly, Mr. Allen, you have no idea how much I wanted. I so very wanted a new backup goalkeeper to take
Oh yeah,
over
me too.
Fraser Foster. And that was made ever more so damning when Vicario was diagnosed with that fracture, and now he's going to be out for the foreseeable, future. I still feel, honestly, if we have the chance to maybe even bring in someone like a David De Gea or some other 30-year-old plus tried, tested, and proven goalkeeper in Europe to maybe be our new second choice goalkeeper, possibly even I wouldn't say relegate Fraser Foster to be our third choice, but maybe just have another backup goalkeeper just so in case something does happen to Fraser Foster, because with our medical team, you have absolutely no idea who's going to be next on the treatment table or on the sidelines for a prolonged length of time. So a new second choice backup goalkeeper to both Vicario and Foster would be very much welcome. As much as I want to have some confidence and hope in the likes of Brennan Austin and Whiteman, I think it's Whiteman, yeah, Alfie. I don't think they are quite ready to make the cut. So if I could get one goalkeeper in January, in a few weeks' time, I would really love that. The other one, I think, would be either a centre midfield, as what Mr. Cousins alluded to earlier, someone who's hard as nails, your Graham Roberts, maybe an Ndombele with a better attitude, or maybe even, say, someone like a Wanyama who can stay fit for more than, weeks at a time. It's either a centre midfielder or a centre back, because honestly, I still haven't the slightest idea where Archie Gray fits into our team. Is he a right back? Is he a defensive midfielder? Is he a auxiliary centre back? Anyone else? I mean, think back.
Goalkeeper Sunday, Chang. He's playing in goal Sunday.
I would not want anyone else other than Fraser Foster in goal for us right this very moment. Say what you want about Fraser Foster and his age. He literally kept us in the game against Fulham, against Bournemouth, against Chelsea, even against Rangers last night. That's how imperious he is. And this is where I think experience really counts. But going back to Archie Gray, how many of us would gladly have Eric Dyer back right now just so he can be that tried and tested and proven centre back in Archie Gray's state, or even a Davinson Sanchez, or even a Juan Foyt? Any of those previous centre backs that played for us would be such a welcome addition over someone like, say, a Pedro Porro or even an Archie Gray centre back. So if I had my say, just these 2 choices, a goalkeeper as our new second, or rather as our new backup goalkeeper to Vicario when Vicario gets back, and a centre back. We already have a Dragushin from earlier this year in January. Early this year in January, we got a Dragushin who was courted by Bayern Munich. Now we have him, and he's holding up as a backup to both Van der Ven and Romero, but he can't do it all by himself. So maybe another Dragushin when the January transfer window opens, that would be very welcome to me. Back to you, Mrs. Roker.
Alan, this is what
Yes.
concerns me. This is what concerns me. This is transfer market, right? In the 2023-24 season, right? Angie's first, we spent 272.10 mil on players. We sold 120 mil.70. Most of that will be the Kane money.
Yep.
So our net spend was 151 million, right? So far this season, it isn't over, obviously. Our net spend this season has been 93.55 million, right?
Wow.
So we have actually spent, without the outgoings, over 400 mil, right? But our net spend under Ange, Mark, please don't start fucking doing that, right? Our net spend under Ange is 244.95 million, right?
Yep.
It's worked at about 120 million a season. But that's roughly been our average since the stadium's opened. I'm just wondering, see, I don't know if there's a transition period from financial fair play or profit sustainability rules over to SCR, which is the new Ponzi name, an acronym for squad cost ratio. So I don't know if we got leeway on how much I don't know what we can actually spend and not break the rules.
I understand.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Ultimately, I think anyone that we bring in, unless things really change, it's just patching over cracks. I don't know what kind of impact any player, short of like Harry Kane or somebody like that, would have on our team. If I had to get a left back, again, Robinson, the American guy, I think he's phenomenal. But it's funny with Man City. I think we're going to. I don't know what's going to happen with Man City with the charges. We find out in January, I think. But if something pretty negative happens, we could see all the rats, fleeing the ship. And if that's the case, then I would be happy with the Josko Gvardiol from Man City as our left back. I think he's a very good left back. He has saved Man City a lot of times. He's made mistakes against us. But nobody's infallible. I think on the whole, he's a solid left back. And I think he walks right into our team and starts. I think we need a winger because I think we need to support Solanke. Well, I agree with Chang. I've been clamoring for a backup goalie to Vicario for a year. Once we got Fraser Forster, I thought, well, this can't be our actual backup, right? Where's the real backup guy? And then we never got an actual backup guy. It really was Fraser Forster. To be fair to him, he's done a job that we needed him to do. I mean, you can see he's not as limber as probably he used to be, and certainly not as much as Vicario. But I think we had two goalies on the bench against Rangers, right? And I think whilst I would like a backup goalie, I think for Ange, I don't think he would get one. But I think we need a winger because a winger will a winger that is fast and that can cross and cross well, because we need to start feeding Solanke. We need to start getting him doing what he was hired to do, which is score goals. And I know I'm trying to pick from experience. Because of Harry Kane, I watch Bayern Munich, and Leroy Sané is a winger that I think is kind of fallen out of favor there a bit. And he's very fast, and he can cross really well, and he scores the occasional goal. But I think we need that kind of experience. And he was in the Premier League. He's Premier League proven also. So he's not someone that couldn't do the job. Certainly could do it better than at times Timo Werner. We need to start thinking about who's going to step in for Heung-min Son. Heung-min Son is just, he's kind of at the end of his life cycle in football. He's not in soccer years or football years. He's no kid. And we need to find someone who can grow into that role. And so we need a winger and we need a left back. That's my opinion.
Eugene, do you? I mean, this squad needs a lot of money spent on it. If they're talking about 3 or 4 transfer windows, I think we have to go. We need about another 4 transfer windows, I think, to get this squad to a level whereby when you get to the end of each season, your squad's good. You only need to bring in 1 or 2. You know, we're nowhere near that stage yet, though, are we?
No.
I mean, and the only way we'll get there if we have some stability on the managerial front. Because if we, as we said before, if we keep changing managers every 2 years, we'll never get to a point where where a squad will be built for a certain philosophy. So I agree with you. I mean, if you look at half of our starters, they were bought for Conte or Nuno, right? So Ange needs 4 or 5 more players that fit his system. The question is, though, and the more I think I know what Ange's system is, the more I'm confused about what he actually needs. Like, for example, with Johnson, yes, he does, I think, what Ange wants him to do. He's there at the end of the low crosses. However, Johnson is also one of the reasons why we cannot beat a low block, given his skill set. So my question, I guess, is if we give Ange specifically 2 or 3 more transfer windows, do we trust him and the recruitment team to bring in players that will put us in position to compete? Like with Arsenal, Arteta had a vision. He built his squad over 4 years, and then he splashed all that money for Declan Rice, right? Otherwise, he couldn't do it. So I'm not sure if in 3 years we'll be in that position where, you know what, we're 1 player away from challenging.
You must remember, though, right, who really is in charge.
Exactly.
I know exactly what Adrian's going to say. Oh, it's Lang, it's Men, or whoever it is, right? But we all know who is really behind the transfers, right? And it's Mr. Greedy Bags at the top.
Exactly.
Right?
And look, like it's interesting too, because in American sports, it works a bit different, where a general manager or the owner of the team would talk to the fans and to say, okay, this is our plan. Next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this is what we're going to do. So even if the team is not winning, the fans know what the plan is.
Yeah. But when do we ever hear anything from the chairman?
And
never.
That's why I feel bad for Ange sometimes, that he's the one who needs to speak for the club, where it's on Levy or Mon or Lange to tell the fans, look, it's going to be a youth movement. This is what we're going to do, but in 5 years, we're going to compete. But we have no idea what the plan is.
I'll be honest with you, Eugene, though. All this Man, Langer, whatever their names are, I don't know. I'm not interested, right? But they're only a screen for Levy, because if things go wrong, he's got people to point at. Instead of the fans all going on him, you know what I mean? They're all a big screen in front of him. You know, he's layered. He's got layers.
That's where I'm frustrated, because and maybe I was delusional, but when Ange came in, when we brought in Mon and Lange, I was like, you know what? For the first time, maybe Levy's going to step back. He'll focus on the financial part, and he'll let the football people do their jobs. And I mean, it probably is not happening. But on the other hand, I don't think that Levy actually, obviously, he doesn't scout players. No. And the business that we're doing is shocking. Like, for example,
he has the final say, though. He has the final say.
Right.
You know,
but I'm just saying,
because it's like I said, you can't tell me that Ange, if you had a choice out of Neto and Odebert, you can't tell me Ange said, "Oh, get me Odebert." You know what I
1000%.
mean? That's ridiculous.
1000%. But on the other hand, is look, when Ange said that he wants Gallagher, who was never coming, or Eze or Neto, even though we could not get those players, the profiles were clear. And
I bet we could have done. I bet we could have done. I bet we could have got those players.
But the recruiting team, but even if we couldn't, right? The recruiting team understood the profile of players that Ange wants. Even if it's not Gallagher, he wants a similar midfielder with those attributes. And we still did not bring anybody in with those attributes. So that's why I'm confused about. I get it that Levy's pulling the strings, but we can still bring cheaper players with those attributes to help Ange right now and not bring in just 18-year-olds. That's where I'm confused about what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Chang, there'd be no point having a recruitment team if they weren't involved with the recruitment team, and they didn't have some autonomy on like who to bring in. I mean, obviously there is a budget which they keep to themselves. You don't show your hand to other clubs, and obviously they don't just turn up during the transfer window. They're obviously compiling lists, as Eugene alluded to, of profiles of players. You know, several players in each position that's required. I mean. And then again, I mean, like Levy didn't sign Werner, he didn't sign Johnson, he didn't sign Solanke, did he? But they're all players that Ange said he wanted. I get the wingers, even if I don't like Werner, just simply because they suit his system, pace and playing wide, right? Which is part of the system, isn't it? So I get where Mark's coming on when he's having a bash at Levy, but there will be a budget. I mean, otherwise these guys would jack. They wouldn't even be at the club, right? So your take on the recruitment team. I mean, do you agree with what I said? Do you think they've compiled lists of players in every position, or?
Everything that you said about our recruitment, I think, boils down to the comparison when you talk about the players that Johan Lang has brought in, and you compare that with what Don Paratici brought in for us. The difference, the drop-off in quality, as well as the I wouldn't say not so much of sustainability, but the consistency in performance between the Don Paratici signings and the Johan Land signings is heaven and earth. If we could just see even a semblance, a sort of continuity from the project that Don Paratici started all those seasons ago with Nuno, when we got the ball rolling with Romero and Vicario and Van der Ven, and we then trickle down. We follow that up with maybe more than just a Solanke way back this summer. I mean, we want players who walk right not only into our starting 11, but any starting 11 in the Premier League. And honestly, everything that Mr. Cousins said earlier, your Bergvalls, your Yang Min Hyuks, your Ashley Phillips, even Luka Vuskovic, who is even yet to bed into with our senior squad, that I think tells you everything that is wrong with this business model at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And yes, as much as people want to try and deny it, I'm sorry to say this, but this sounds very cliche, but you could almost say that there was once a football club here. Right now, it's more of a business than anything else. And
we built a £1 billion stadium to bring in all these kids. You know what I mean?
I know. I get where you're coming from, Mr. Cousins, and it just doesn't make any sense.
It's money.
Or rather, we cannot justify ourselves as so-called FFP champions if we are shopping for kids and expecting them to come good, when we really need something now for the manager to have some sort of end product at the end of the season. Right now, how we are still in Europa, how we are still hanging by the skin of our teeth in the League Cup, and I really dread to think what will happen to us when we travel away at Tamworth with our current away form. So if this is the tools, the kits that Big Ange has to work with, I really fear for the next manager, because it's just going to be rinse and repeat with this vicious, never-ending cycle of, let's blame it all on the manager. Oh, let's blame it on the recruitment. Let's even put the blame on some of these players that we brought in who can't even hold up their end of the bargain and do what's expected of them because of their salaries or their transfer prices, whatever it is. There's always someone to point the blame at. But after however many seasons we've had to endure the stewardship under Enoch, under Joe Lewis, under Daniel Levy, there never ever is this sort of common understanding where every single one at the club, from your janitors, from your tea lady, from Joe Lewis to Donna Cullen to Levy, even to our managers, even the players, Miss Kate, it's going to be an all-nighter for me, so I might as well stay up here with Mr. Cousins and Mr. Eugene, Mr. Allen, and also Mr. Stroker. But just my final say on this, unless all of us pull together in the same direction, even as fans as well, even to this very day, we are still, are we edge in, are we edge out, are we supposed to be supporting the players that we have, are we going to pine for better players than what we currently have? None of us. The whole club is so fractured, and you look back when Big Ange took over, I really thought that this is going to be it. Big Ange is going to be the answer. He's going to be that perfect man manager who knows how to speak to our players, who knows how to speak to the media, who knows how to carry himself, on and off the pitch, and get us all pulling together in the same direction. Well, guess what? 18 months later now, as much as I would like to say that I am very much Ange in, I will still hold out for him to the end of the season, but he cannot carry on at this rate any longer. Not with the recruitment, not with the players that we have. Even Lang, for that matter, even Linik, even Levy and Enoch, they cannot sustain this much longer. But until all of us, every single one of us, pull together and have this common goal that we want nothing less than the best for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, nothing is ever going to change, Mr. Stroker. And with that said, back to you, sir.
Right. Alan, on I see this coming with the youth players. We bring in Solanke, then we bring in Odebert, Gray, and Bergvall for like about 100 mil anyway, right? 3 players.
I forgot about Odebert.
But with the Levy thing, where I agree with Mark is on the youth thing. I mean, when he spoke to David Pleat said recently, when he brought his book out and all that this is the way we're going. We're going down the data and analysis route and bringing in youth players, right? So, good evening, Jose. So, we are where we are, aren't we? We're just unbalanced. I think we got 11 players that are under 24 years of age in the squad that was named, and we do need a couple of experienced heads in there, don't we?
Definitely. I think we are youth top heavy, and it's a problem. And I think I think in Ange's presser, when he kind of went off a bit on Timo, I think that's something weighing on him, because he was talking about having to play all of these youth players, and I think that he's feeling the stress of the consequence of that, of having so many youth players. I don't know if there's any manager out there that could take this team as is with all of this youth and somehow spin gold. I just don't see it. I don't, Ange's system aside, the makeup, the chemistry of everything, it doesn't work. I don't think it works, and we need experience badly, very, very badly. We need the youth need to be able to copy, experienced players. They need that guidance. They need someone to take them under their wing, and that's why I said it. And I know I've mentioned it before. About needing like a real team captain, someone that's charismatic, someone that can help guide these youth players. It's not a position that in general is needed. I guess only when you really when you take on a project like the one that is at Tottenham Hotspur, it just requires some of that, almost like adult supervision. You know, you need to have that experience there to help guide the youth. Otherwise, they're just going to do whatever they think is right, which may very well not be right, and kind of burn out. I was Dele Alli kind of that way. Did he really have someone that guided him and helped him? Because I feel like he burned out for a lack of that. Although I know his son, I'm not in England to know what his personal life was like.
Dele sort of found his own. Dele sort of found his own way off the rails, in my opinion. Yeah, he sort of, he sort of just dropped off.
I'm going to bring Jose in now. Jose, welcome to the show. I know you're on your phone, typing away or whatever. That's why I thought I'd disturb you. Right. Yeah, on this situation, to me, the youth problem for me has been compounded by the fact we brought these young players in. We added Mikey Moore and Lancashire to the squad. But in the existing team, as if fans are treating like what we could be our existing 12 or 14 players, we've still got players developing, haven't we? Like Sarr, VDV's 22, your doggy's young, right? Johnson, these players are still developing.
Dragerson.
And Dragerson, and we brought more players in. What's your take on it?
I've been listening to all five of you, to what you said, and good evening to you all. Or good afternoon to you, some of you, depending where you are in the world. And good morning to you guys as well, wherever you are in the world. But I've been listening to what you've all said. And for me, it's interesting because you hear people on other streams saying, all these Tottenham fans were saying we had a brilliant transfer window. I don't recall hearing people saying we had a brilliant transfer window. Everyone that I've spoken to, or everyone that I remember listening to, and I had the same opinion, I said that we were liked by 3 or 4 players. We were definitely liked by 3 or 4 players, and we can tell now because our squad is thin because we've got injuries, and even without the injuries, let's be fair, our squad is still thin, even without injuries. Now, yeah, we're going down a route, and we're speculating to accumulate. And what I don't like is if the plan is to build a competitive team in the future, right? Then that's all well and good and great, but that's future. It's not the here and now. And we're all moaning and we're all complaining about the here and now. However, my feeling is that what Tottenham are doing, or the model they're going down, is to speculate and to accumulate players. If they turn out to be gems and really good players, instead, I think that Tottenham will sell these players on for a profit rather than create a team that will be competitive. That's my fear. Now, the other side of me says that I'm so unhappy. Well, I'm so sad. I can't say I'm unhappy. I'm sad that Paratici got found out for what he did at Juve. And the minute that we hired Langer, at that time, and I've said this before, you then have 2 people there. You have one who's a contractor and one who's a full-time employee. You're always going to side with your full-time employee, never with the contractor. So it's obvious that Paratici would take a step back. He may not even be at the club. I don't see him at games anymore, right? I felt that with Paratici, and my feeling still is, if Paratici was allowed to pull and have some more involvement in our transfer dealings, I think the caliber of player that we bought in could have been higher than what we have bought in. Now, the other thing that I'd say to people is, and I thought this at the time, and I said this at the time, and I'll say this now again, why didn't Aston Villa fight to keep Langer? They let Langer go.
That says a lot. That really does say a lot, Jose.
They didn't put him on gardening leave. They didn't do, all this stuff with Langer. At the end of the day, they've let him go. Now, okay, I'm not going to turn around and say Aston Villa look great on their incomings that they've had, because they've had a shocking transfer window as well, in my eyes. They brought loads of 8 or 9 players in, and maybe one, and that was Onana, was getting first team football. The rest of them weren't making the team. So I'm not going to say that they're brilliant in the transfer market, but they didn't fight for Langer. And then, of course, we've got David Pleat, who's now left the club. He's probably been at our club, well, ever since I was a youngster, and I can remember him being this. He must have been at our club close on 40 years, if not more, in different positions at the club. And he came out when he's written his book and stuff like that. He came out and he's done, because he owes the club nothing. If anything, the club owes him. And he's come out, he's done his promotion for his book, and he's spoken about Tottenham letting him go because Tottenham now don't believe that the eye test is good enough anymore. And, you know, for me, at the end of the day, we've got someone that just looks at spreadsheets and looks at skill sets, at numbers through a spreadsheet, and then says, yeah, that player would be decent for us without going to watch the player. And for me, it takes, you can have a bit of that, but surely you must go and watch players as well. You know, and for me, I just think to myself, and Adrian, you know this, the connections. Paratici had connections. Paratici knew everybody in the game. He had the connections with all the agents and everything. And you know, it's well documented, well publicized. He'd be on the phone, and you know, he'd never be off his phone all the time. He'd be doing it. Langer, what connections has he got? He didn't have connections when he was at Villa. So what connections has he got now? So therefore, there's a disconnect for me with, yeah, okay, you can say the man at the top provides the funds, right? Then you've got Langer, who I don't think is doing much at all for us. And then you've got Postecoglou, who's probably saying, yeah, I need a player that can do X, Y, and Z, these attributes, these skill sets. But when you go to purchase players, I think someone said it. If you offered Neto and you offered Odebert and somebody else, Postecoglou may have said, yeah, I want someone like Neto, right? But the thing is, we weren't gonna buy Neto because Chelsea paid the money that Wolves wanted. Tottenham didn't even bid nowhere near the money they wanted, and Tottenham, you can see already, they're not going to pay the wages. Neto didn't come cheap to Chelsea. His salary is going to be over 100 grand a week, and it looks like we're not paying any more than 100 because we've dropped our wage bill completely. So
40 million we saved.
Yeah, but before
allegedly.
But the thing is, it's not just saving it. To get these players in, right? If you're going to go to the next rung, so to speak, the next level. I mean, you've got youngsters. You've got Adrian does a fantastic job on his Facebook by showing all these players that, you know, scouting all these players in there. How many of these players are young players, and Adrian will know, that are a level above the youngsters that we've got, but they're going to cost money. They're not going to come cheap. They'll cost money. So, you know, at the end of the day, and I agree as well with what you said, that, you know, we can see this, and a lot of us can see this as fans, that what you do is you create a squad and you add to it every year. You rotate, you regurgitate the squad every year, and you go from there. Now, yeah, Ange inherited a squad that was made for Poch, because when Ange inherited his squad, we still had loads of Poch players in that squad. They've now gone. The Conte players, the Mourinho players, the Nuno players have gone, and we're left with two. We're left with one, Ben Davis, who absolutely plays his heart out for Tottenham week in, week out. And then we have an absolutely brilliant ambassador for the club who's been an excellent player, but clearly from the eyes, we can all see he's on a decline, and that's Son Heung-min. So we've got two players left from the Poch era. So, you know, we've got, there's players that we need to release this summer who are not good enough, who are not playing and are not performing regularly every day, every game for us. And these players we need to let go, and we need to strengthen the team, and we need to keep doing that. But my fear is just doing it from a spreadsheet, we're not going to get what we need just doing it from a spreadsheet. And they're just my thoughts. It's a tangled web. It's a tangled web.
I want to come to Eugene, then we'll, after Eugene's finished, we'll talk about that press conference, right? Eugene, I mean, a fear for me is the fact that now, because we don't know how much we got to spend, we spent a bit underrange, but they're club signings as well. Let's be fair about this, because it's a joint effort. No manager has ever given them the checkbook in his hand to go and do what he wants. That never happens at any football club, right? But then you hear the rumoured links like we're after loan players or someone like Jonathan David who will be at the end of his contract. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, like, this is very uninspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do, right? We go for a good deal versus a good player. When was the last time we signed a player who was wanted by other, top teams? I don't recall, right? It hasn't happened in a long time. Usually we either get a player with 1 year left, right? Like with Madison and Bissouma, or we get a young player, or we get a player from lower leagues or from France or whatever. So this is just not the way we do business, unfortunately. And like I said before, like Jose said as well, even if we cannot get those top players, the profiles are clear, right? So it's on the scouting team, on the recruiting team to find those gems. We could have signed Kudus. There are a lot of players that other teams around us sign, that Villa, even West Ham, Bournemouth, that, a lot of players who we can easily afford that other teams sign, that our scouting team, for whatever reason, did not surface, right? So I understand, even though I want us to sign elite world-class players, we don't do that, which is okay, fine. But if we don't, we need to discover and we need to get quality, elsewhere otherwise. But we don't. We just get either 18-year-olds, or we get loan deals, or we get players on 1 year left on their contracts that nobody else wants. And that's unfortunate. And again, that goes back to what I was saying, that the plan for the club is not clear. It's on Levy and Mann and Lench to talk to the fans and to say, this is our financial situation. This is what we want to do with the club. We're either going to go young or we're going to do something else. But next year, we want to get to this level. In 2 years, we want to get to this level. In 5 years, we want to be here. But we have no idea what they're doing. It's mixed signals. We buy some veteran players, we buy some young players, but we're still not in position to challenge. We're, fifth, sixth. If we get lucky, we're fourth. But we're in that no man's land where we don't challenge, but we're not bad enough where the fans get angry and ask for changes. We're kind of,
Right. Okay, we'll end at that. Alan, your take on Andy's press conference. Have you seen the press conference at all?
I saw. Well, there were two, right? There was the one where he initially talked about Timo, and then there was one where he got a lot of follow-up questions about his Timo comments. Yeah. So yes, I saw. I've seen him.
Right. I mean, what's your take on his comments? I mean, in one he's saying one, in the second one he's saying like, oh, it's just an assessment of of players and things like that. And the previous one, it looked like he was, although he told Kuti he shouldn't have said what he said when he was out in Argentina or something like that. Now he's done it. To me, he's done exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so you can see it because Ange doesn't have much of a poker face. You can tell he's not happy. And, to be a fly on the wall in that locker room just to better understand what he's not happy with. With regard to Timo Werner, you ever double down on something because you just believe in it so much, even if other people are telling you it's probably not the right thing, but it's your choice, and whatever that choice was, it's just not working out, you get frustrated. You're frustrated, like, damn it, I wasted my time. I feel like I wasted my time. And I think that's what spilled out of Ange in the press conference about Timo Werner. He kind of doubled down because we have him on, we renewed or continued his loan spell. And when we all knew he just wasn't good enough. regardless of what he did last season, he just wasn't good enough. We should have been more aggressive in finding a replacement for him, a permanent replacement, not a loanee, but a permanent replacement. And I think that spilled out a bit in his initial interview. Because, and he tried to do some damage control by saying, well, when you have so many youth on the team out there, I need my experienced players to really try hard. Well, let me tell you, even our experienced players didn't do very much. I mean, he singled out Timo Werner. But I think that's because Timo Werner was I don't know what he has on him, or if it's a special relationship, or Ange just sees something that the rest of us don't. But he doubled down on Timo, and Timo has just not risen to the occasion. And that spilled out. And then in the subsequent interviews where he's talking about, as you said, well, there's a difference between an assessment and criticism, and kind of went in about what the difference was about the criticism and how it's not useful. And he criticized him. It was what he said in the press conference was not useful. I mean, it was not helpful. And in fact, all it did is backfire on him, because he was getting peppered with questions about Timo Werner, which probably wasn't his initial, it wasn't what he intended. I don't think. I think he's just very frustrated. He's human, so because I know that I've watched videos, people saying they're disappointed in Ange. They're very concerned. I'm not. He's human. He's allowed to get frustrated, and when you're getting peppered by questions, every once in a while, your emotions are going, especially if they've already boiled over in the locker room, like they probably did after the Rangers game. He lets some of that steam out because he probably couldn't let it all out at the players. So I think it's just representative of where we're at as a club. Our coach is frustrated, where he backtracked and reminded us, but if there are problems, I'm the one that should be dealing with them. Not, it's not the player's fault. It's my fault. But I think that is a facade that we all just saw through in that one little moment when he went after Timo. So yeah,
Chang. I mean, we've seen this before with Ange. He bristles, didn't he? When he sort of struggles when we faced a defeat in these press conferences. We always get this sort of, I just wish he'd be cryptic like the others or say nothing. What's your take on the press conference?
Well, I would say that this is a double-edged sword, the press conference, especially when things are either going your way swimmingly and you are just lapping in all the praises, or when you come under fire from maybe some bad results, and then you either lash out, which is what Conte did, which hopefully is not something Big Ange will ever do, or you could just try and make the best of whatever you can come up with on the spot. And I honestly feel that Big Ange is just plowing on, for lack of a better term. He's just trying to wing it. He's just trying to get through the day without having any more heartache, without having any more needless headaches when being faced with presses from the press with regards to his tactics or his players or even the club as a whole. So for me, Big Ange he's not doing all that great in this post-match conferences, but he hasn't done a Conte yet and openly spoken out against the hierarchy. So I think there's something there.
He won't.
Okay, so this is my theory, on how Big Ange has been able to somehow deflect with smoke and mirrors in his press conferences. That one time he actually singled out a player yesterday after the away draw at Rangers. Timo Werner in particular. I think this is just weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months and months of just, you know what, you've had your chance. I've given you your chance. You've had more than ample chances to prove us all wrong, but one goal in 14 or 15, I think it was, appearances all season just isn't quite cutting it. And if it was any other player, even a Brennan Johnson for that matter, you would be scoring at least double, maybe even triple or even quadruple what you currently have. So I think that is a clear indictment that I think Timo Werner's time at the club has run out. It won't be any surprise to me if he's terminated his loan and he's shipped back to RB Leipzig. But coming back to the point of Big Ange and his presser, or rather his comments in the post-match, I have more than once honestly felt that he would be better off just doing what Berbatov would do and just say, no comment. Sorry, no comment on that. Or if he wants to go even one better, take a leaf out of Arsene Wenger's playbook. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I have no clue. Anything but to try and answer the question directly. No, honestly, Mr. Allen, you may laugh at this, but sometimes just claiming ignorance, or rather playing dumb, playing the fool, rather than trying to give a face value answer to questions that you yourself don't have answers to. I feel that if you were to try and just deflect all you can rather than to have to answer this time bomb, or rather try and set off this ticking time bomb, which you know is going to blow up in your face the moment you say something that answers it directly. Because however you answer it, it's going to look bad on you. It's going to look bad on the players, the squad, the club, even us fans. So instead of having to answer it directly, find some way, some medium, some middle ground. Well, it is what it is. I mean, there's only so much I can do as a manager. If the transfers are out of my hands, and these are the players that I'm dealt with, then I just have to make the best with it. Or if our medical team, if our medical department is the way it is, and they can't improve on the players' fitness, they can't get the players back from the treatment room, then that's not on me. I've tried my best to condition these players during preseason, but if this is what I have to work with, then so be it. Everything that he has to say, if we could just learn how to weave and work his way away from avoiding the questions, that might actually do not only his Spurs career but his manager career a world of a good. With that, back to you, Mr. Stroker.
Yeah, he does.
Jose.
That was very astute.
Jose, do you think Ange would send out a message? I think he's clearly frustrated with Tino Werner, like most of the Spurs fan base appears to be. Do you think he'd be better off, it would send a message if it just did away with the loan bill in January? It might give the squad a kick in the right place, or not.
Right. For me, right, I don't subscribe to Ange wanted Timo. I don't subscribe to it. Ange was given Timo, and it was yes or no. You take Timo or you get nobody. That's what I think was given to Ange. And Ange said, well, in that case, I will take him. Ange or the club, we heard a couple of months ago, the club have said that they're willing to let him go back in January. The problem that we've got is that the only way that Timo Werner can go back, because he's on a season-long loan, I believe. We can't see the documentation, but I'm believing that he's on a season-long loan with no
RB
cut-off.
Leipzig has to take him back.
The only cut-off that he's got is if he finds himself a better loan, i.e. that another club wants him. So if someone comes in January and says, we'll take Timo, Tottenham will say, okay, send him back to Leipzig, let him go to another club. But that needs to happen. Now, with the way that Timo Werner has been playing for Tottenham, right, he's had some good games. He has assisted. He hasn't scored, but he has assisted in some games. But the majority of the games that Timo has played, he's not shown up. He's not done what you want, But then the same can be said for quite a lot of our players. Don't show up week in, week out. I watched the game yesterday and I was horrified. And I'm going to be brutal because I watched it with my own eyes. I was horrified at Timo Werner. He couldn't pass the ball. He didn't run back either. He just when he didn't pass the ball, when he passed the ball out to somebody and he didn't get to the player and they were on the attack, he just stood there and watched the attack happen. I was horrified. Listen, I'm 56 years old and I play football still. And if we give the ball away, I'm trying to make it back. I'm not as quick as him, but I'm trying to make it back. And kids wouldn't give up the ball like that. At the end of the day, I just found that he played really bad yesterday. Now, the thing when Ange talks, he gets misconstrued because when he talks, it's not the way. Some people would determine and take whatever he says in their own way and in their own thought. Part of me says you don't dig out a player like that in public. Did he dig him out? The old school will tell you, yeah, he did dig him out, didn't he? The old school will tell you he did dig him out. But other people will say, no, well, and at the end of the day, listen, you got Mikey Moore, right? Who's been ill, right? Mikey Moore, he's only young Mikey Moore, and he's still learning his trade, right? But Mikey Moore must be thinking, how the fuck does he get more game time than me? Mikey Moore must think that. Mikey Moore's only 17, but Mikey Moore does more with a football than Timo Werner. And he must just think to himself, when am I going to get given a chance? Mikey Moore hasn't had loads and loads of minutes. It's unfortunate he's been injured. He hasn't had loads and loads of minutes.
You've also got Odegaard to come back, Yang Min Hook to come in. I don't see Werner. I only see him as a bench warmer at best when these players are fit, Jose.
Yeah, but it's right, bench warmer, but you can't fit Odegaard and you can't fit Mikey Moore. You can't fit them all into the team. So there's going to be more bench warmers than just Werner. But all I'm saying is that for me, Mikey Moore must be. I'm just saying that for me, Mikey Moore, although he's young and he's still learning his trade, Mikey Moore must think to himself. And I've said this before, Adrian, on the show with you before, whether it's on my channel or yours. I've turned around and said, he must be just scratching his head, thinking, how can I not get in front of that person? Mikey Moore ain't got the speed of Werner, but Mikey Moore's got a lot of intelligence and skill. And if he loses the ball, Mikey Moore don't just stand there and put his hands on his hips and let the game go past him. Mikey Moore will try and track back like other players do. But I was horrified with the way he played. But I do agree with Chinwag Spurs. Right, I do agree because I've said this already. I did say that he wasn't the only one yesterday.
But not that one.
But, yeah, no. If a bit further up, he's put down. Was he the only one, Jose? Son was just as bad. No, yeah, I did say that, Chinwag. I said at the start, I did say that he wasn't the only one. Right, there are players that played badly as well yesterday and that don't put in 7 and 8 out of 10 performances every week. We've got quite a few players that are like that in the squad. But with them players in the squad, I think that some of them, and I'm going to be kind, some of them it's because they're burnt out. You got your Udogie and Porro, who are never getting rotated at all. They're completely burnt out. So if they don't perform, it's because they're burning out. You got some midfielders who don't perform, and I don't know whether that's burnout. But if I had to look at the team that was there on the pitch yesterday, the worst player for me on that pitch yesterday in the first half for me was Timo Werner. Should he have been digged out? Maybe not. But I'm hoping that Santa comes early for us all and a club thinks to themselves, you know what? We've got a great idea. Let's take Timo Werner on loan. Because if they do that, Santa, put him in your red sack and take him to his new club.
Yeah.
Right, okay. We'll move on now because
hang on a minute. I have my bloody say on.
Oh, Mark, put your foot down.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jesus.
Go, Mark.
Right now. Yeah, right. I'm like regular on it after all. Right now, Ange. Right, did he dig Timo out? Yes, he did. Right? What I want to know is, where was the criticism of the other players that was rubbish? You got to remember, Timo is a lone player here, so it doesn't matter if he digs him out. Where was the digging out of Son, Basuma, Let's think of a few more.
Porro.
Johnson, Porro. You know, all the rest of the rubbish. He did it because he's the lone player and he's the easy target, right? I'll be honest with you, I do not watch Ange's press conferences anymore because I think he talks a load of waffle half the time, right? Because, to be honest, I'd sooner, if he does a press conference, I'd sooner he just sits there and say nothing. Just sit there and say nothing. It'd be far more entertaining because, no, what's it? Apart, when he did dig him out, was it a week or two earlier? He said, when Romero made the comments about the ownership, he said, I don't dig players out like that. And yet yesterday he did it. So to me, he creates more problems than he solves.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
should have been more cryptic, because what he actually did was, rather than dip the others out, he did what he should be doing. He generalised about hinting at experienced players in this squad should be doing much more and should be stepping up. He sort of hinted at that in his conference. He didn't dip. No, you're right. He didn't dip them out.
Yeah,
But
No, exactly. It's easy.
He shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have
It's
dipped
easy.
Werner out.
It's easy to dig the lone player out.
If you don't like the player, get rid of him.
Can I say the difference is, right, that I know in Spain and in Italy, right, because I heard what you guys said, and I think Eugene was talking about earlier, is the not knowing what you're trying to do as a club because no one talks about it. So for that and for medicals, you see that in Italy and Spain, when it's pre-match, it might not be a manager that comes out to talk pre-match. It might be your medical team because there's medical issues going on, and then they come out and they explain why players are out injured and stuff like that. You could get the general manager comes out and say, makes a statement or comes out and does an interview. It doesn't necessarily pre-match have to be the manager that does it. However, in the Premiership, they always like it to be a manager that does it. I'm sure that most of the fucking managers in the Premiership don't want to come out and do press conferences pre-game. All right, you post-game, someone's got to speak post-game. But pre-game, I'm sure they don't want to do it. And when you're talking to Ange and you're asking him a million questions around the players that are injured, why isn't a medical person answering that rather than Ange? And I'm just talking for our club. I'm talking any Premiership club could do this. When you start questioning Ange on what the transfers are and stuff like that, why aren't we wheeling out Langer or Munn or Levy to say, well, our thought process is this is what we're trying to do. And you get to hear what the clubs do. Like I said, clubs in Italy and in Spain, they do this. They wheel out the medical people, they wheel out the general managers. But in this country, for some reason, it just seems to be you wheel out the manager, and the manager's expected to answer it all. And what do you want the managers to turn around and say? The manager ain't in charge of the budget. What do you want the manager to say? The manager can't tell you what's happening with the medical team. At the end of the day, they're on a wing and a prayer when they come out, managers. So,
well, he also gave a cryptic dig, I think, at Maddison. It may be others because I don't know what their psychological profiles are like as players. Whether they're egoists or what. But he said, "I'm not here to mash his egos as well," and that may have been a dig at Maddison, right? Who he thinks he's better than he is, in my opinion. He's a very good footballer on his day, but we ain't seen too many of them days. Right, let's move on to this. I'll give you a bit of info. Previous, right. I like my facts. Head-to-head meetings. We've had 203 games with them. Saints have won 65. There have been 52 draws, and Spurs have won 86. These are our injury, woes, and suspensions. Only 9 players out for this game, guys. Right? Vicaria, Odebert, Davis, Richarlison, Moore, VDV, Romero, and suspended Bentancur and Basuma, who picked up his 5th yellow card. My patience has completely run out with Basuma. I've got to be honest about this. Right. On the yellow card watch before we discuss the game, VDV's on 4 when he's back, so he'll be clear by the time we've played half the games when we get the amnesty. Bentancur might be the same there. So
sorry.
Yeah. So, and the others are on 2 and all that, right? So they should all be clear come the new year. We need a break, don't we, really? So, with all these players out, right, we go back to the wounded. Eugene, I haven't spoken to you for a while. What do you think the lineup's going to play? Do you think there's a chance that Porro gets rested for Spence, for example? Something like that. What do you think?
I would hope so. I mean, just quickly, just 1 second on the press conference, because I didn't get a say. I support Ange, right? I've been supporting him. I like him, but what he did, I feel like, was shameful, especially when he said, what Romero said, it should have been kept in-house and that he would never criticize a player publicly. Like Mark said, you can't say that and then a couple of days later go in and focus on a specific player, especially Timo. He's been bad, but there are other players who have been just as bad. So I don't agree with what Ange did there. I feel like all the pressure is getting on him and he is losing his spot a bit. So, but on the lineup, I do want to see Spence play since Porro hasn't been good in the last few games. He's tired. And I want to see Archie Gray in the midfield, whether it's a 6 or an 8, but I want to see him in the midfield. I don't think that we have a choice since both Bissouma and Bentancur are out, but otherwise, we don't have that many options. It's going to be Madison, Sarr, Archie Gray in the midfield, Udogi, Van der Ven, Dragushin, Spence, and then Son, Solanke, and Kulu. I feel like, or Kulu maybe the 10 and Johnson. I mean, maybe that's the only thing that Ange can do. Either Madison or Kulu at the 10 and Johnson or Kulu on the wing. Other than that, we really don't have that many options. I don't think he'll play Bergvall. So it's Archie Gray at the 6.
Alan, who's your team? Who do you think Ange will pick for this? I'm going to come to all of you, so don't worry.
Oh God, this is hard. This is why I'm not a coach. Gosh. Well, we know for sure Forster will be in goal. I do think we're going to see Spence. I think Porro needs a rest. He took a knock too, I thought, in the game against Rangers. I don't know if that's going to dog him or not, but he needs a rest because either he's too tired or something's up. But a game off, I think, would do him wonders.
Especially if you've got Man United Thursday in the Carabao Cup, yeah.
Right. Well, and that you're right, and that influences things. I think we see Dragoshin in the middle. I think who else can do the job? Is Ben Davies? How injured is Ben Davies?
Not as bad as I first feared by the press conference Ange gets. So he'll be back before Christmas, right? But when you're still looking a week away or something, I reckon.
So then we're probably going to see Archie Gray again with Dragoshin, if I had to guess. And probably Udogi.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that Van der Ven was out for a few weeks. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just can I jump in, Jose? Have you got to jump? Jose, sorry.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, I'll go, lads.
Right. If you haven't, I've put his link in. Please sub to Jose, please. If any of you in here haven't, I expect you all have, but if any of you haven't, just
can I say thank you very much, Eugene? Nice to meet you, sir.
Jose as well. Very nice to meet you guys.
As per usual, Alan. Nice to see you, sir. Chang.
Wonderful to see you.
Nice to see you, Adrian, Mark. Thank you for having me, top men. Have a really, really good weekend. I'm out on the lash tomorrow from midday, so I've got to go and get ready.
Until Spurs ruin it Sunday, we'll be all right.
But yeah, peace, love to everyone. And it's come on you Spurs, and in the big games we trust. See you later, lads. Bye.
Thanks for coming on, Jose.
Yeah, and also, since I got to jump as well, I want to thank you guys for having me on.
We'll get you back, Eugene. You're always welcome.
Adrian, always a pleasure. Nice to meet you guys as well.
Nice to meet you, Eugene.
Hopefully,
you ain't got a channel, have you, Eugene?
I don't.
Where do you live, Eugene? Where do you live? Whereabouts?
I'm in California.
Oh, you're in California.
Yes. Where in California? I'm in San Diego.
Oh,
Oh, you're all the way up. You're all
I'm
the way
marked
up
out,
there.
yeah,
Okay.
marked out, so
Yeah.
again, like, appreciate this. There are a few Spurs fans here, but not a lot. So being able to talk to you guys is awesome. I can get all the stuff off my chest. So appreciate it.
Well, we go out Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. You know, that's our show days. You know, we may in the future throw some morning ones in or do some direct
Hey.
post match
Hey.
whatever. So we'll see. We'll see. Thanks for coming on, Eugene. We value your
Thank you, boys.
comments.
Fun.
I'm trying to think now. So the midfield. My gosh, I think we're going to see Lucas Berg. We'll probably see the Lucas Bergvall. We will see Pat Matasar and James Madison, if I had to guess. I think up front we're going to see Son, Lancashire, and Kulu. I think we're going to rest because we had to bring on Solanke yesterday. I think he's going to rest Solanke for Southampton's because we have the Man United game coming up. If I had to guess, and he could then sub in Johnson. Kulu could jump down to where Madison is, and then Madison can go out. Or he could swap some of the kids and Kulu can kind of come into the midfield instead, bring Johnson on, because I think he is a better impact player than, from a sub than he is a starter. And yeah, but it's dire. I mean, really, it's so unfortunate. You never want to have a season go the way ours is going, where you have so many injured players, where you're just grasping at straws, at this point.
Chang, your team? Who are you picking out of that? That's fit.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is such a
9 out.
conundrum. This really is a conundrum and a half, honestly, when you have what I can only describe as 2 back-to-back finals. The upcoming game away at St. Mary's might as well be our cup final, because if we lose this, then I don't think Big Ange is going to last beyond this calendar year 2024. But I really hope he does, because he's the only viable option that we have at the club. So honestly, come Sunday, the key to this match would be our midfield. Forget about our forwards, forget about our makeshift auxiliary defense or anything else. If we can sort out that midfield that is going to be without the suspended Bentancur, we would at the very least be able to get a second consecutive away draw. And for me, I would stick with what works, or rather what I saw worked late last night against Rangers. And if it means Kulusevski starting in midfield with, say, one of either Bissouma or Sarr, I am leaning towards Sarr, because much like you, Mrs. Roker, I was absolutely fuming with that needless penalty Bissouma gave away less than a week ago against Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So God knows that I would rather not see him put on a Spurs shirt for the foreseeable future. But if he's all we have right now in midfield, so we have to make do with him. But going for my midfield three is going to be Madison up top, or rather not up top, as our second midfielder, and Kulusevski and Sarr behind him. If we have that 3 midfielders, that would only make sense for Solanke to start, seeing as how he wasn't able to get the full 90 against Rangers, and that would also then leave the likes of Johnson to sort of try and carry on from his goal scoring form, or rather his recent form of us in recent months, and Son Heung-min, whom I thought really should have made the most of his chances against Chelsea last Sunday. I hope he can get more than just the odd consolation goal in the dying embers of any game for us, and just pick up from where you left off. But I think that's going to be a big ask of him. But right now, more than ever, we really need our senior players to make it count where it really matters. So it's going to be Son, Solanke, and Johnson. It's going to be Madison, Sar, and Kulusevski. And the back four will be the back four unless let's say Big Ange does something, against the grain. If he does start Jet Spence, that would also go a long way to showing that he is evolving as a Spurs manager. He is learning from his mistakes. He is coming to terms that maybe Porro isn't that defensive cover that we need now that we have to rely on Archie Gray and Dragushin at centre back. So maybe Jet Spence gets a start. I really do hope that's the case. I can't see anyone else starting in place of Udogi unless he then does put Jet Spence at left back ahead of Udogi, which makes it even worse. When you think of how he needs a win more than anything now come Sunday. But I think that back four should be Udogi, Dragushin, Gray, and Spence, the back four, and Fraser Foster has to be our goalkeeper. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Back to you then, Mr. Stroker.
Mark, your team? I'll give you the moment.
My goodness. No one Ange, Doris TTID in goal. No, I'll be sensible. No, it's going to be Foster in goal, isn't it? I'd like to see Spence get a game because he deserves it more than anything else. And plus, Porro, and Udogi, both of them really, they look half dead. To be honest, they're severely running out of puff. So put Spence in instead of Porro. The two centre backs, we know who they're going to be. There's no need to even talk about that. Left back is going to have to be Udogi because again, poor planning, rubbish transfer window. We haven't got nobody else, so that'd be Udogi. The three, no, Sar's definitely going to have to go in there. Personally, I know he was crap against Rangers in an away game where, to be honest, if Southampton get the ball, they could punish us. I'd like to see another sort of holding one in there. I'd like to see Biss in there, even though he was rubbish against Rangers.
He's suspended, Mark.
Oh, of course he is. Damn. Oh, God. Well, all right, Sarr then. It's going to have to be.
Even Bentancur can't play either, can
Yeah,
he?
Bentancur can't play.
I think you're looking at Bergvall personally, but go on.
Yeah. But will Bergvall do that sort of holding role?
Well,
I see him more of as I'd see. Yeah, well, hang on. Put him in, stuff it, and matters. But tell Bergvall not to venture too far forward in case we get broke on, like every team does to us. We've only got two at the back. Hopefully, we can make it 3 or 4 with like Sarr or maybe Bergvall, and so that's them 3 because Matters is going to have to play, and he's our only. Well, no. I mean, you could stick Kulu in there. No. Right, Matters is the 10, the 3. Okay. Sonny on the left, even though he's not really a left winger anymore. Not really. He's been. Well, I hate digging Sonny out because I love him, but like he's been rubbish, hasn't he, the last few games? I mean, there's no hiding from it. He's been rubbish. This is controversial. I'm going to take Johnson out, even though I'm president of the Johnson Defence League. I'm taking him out. I'm going to put Kulu on the right and Solanke in the middle.
Well, you've picked the back 5. I would play Spence in midfield.
Yeah.
I would play Sarr. I would play Bergvall, and I'd play Kulusevski in midfield because this is an away game. So that means Sarr, Bergvall. Give Bergvall his full debut. That means up front, I am playing Son and Solanke and Johnson. Madison's on the bench for me. I think that, I'm leaving him on the bench. All right, he might get a chance he might even not get in my team for Thursday, you know. But I would leave Maddison on the bench because we need to get a hold of this game first. You can always bring him on after the first half. You know, you could bring him on the hour mark or whatever, if things ain't going well. But I just think that they're fighting for their lives, and I don't want us to lose this midfield battle again. I just think with Kulu, Bergvall in there, you know.
Well, think about this, Adrian.
In there,
Like,
we've got lots of energy in there, lots of energy in midfield, you know. But who knows? I mean,
what do you think about this, Adrian?
Yeah.
Maddison come off the left at Leicester, and David's from Leicester as well, by the way.
David, yeah, I know, and he drifts left anyway. He tends to drift left when he plays for Spurs. I think he's got his zones to work in.
Is he really a winger though? Is he really
he's playing a bit deeper, so he's taken a few kicks, but not as many as he did when you're further forward where the defenders are. You know, they're more on you. I mean, he should have more space to work in, David. That's what I find frustrating about him, his inconsistency. But the days of, like, you know, having Glenn Hoddle play and others do all the work around him are sort of over. Everyone has to earn their keep, don't they, in a team now? I mean, he's got to put more of a shift in. And it wasn't just him, David. He is a quality footballer. No one's denying that. You just want to see more consistency out of him.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't play him in the away game, not after his recent performance. Keep him for Man United then, because Man United will be more open. This is a one-off game, so space should suit him. It will be netball, up and down, up and down, up and down. That's what it will be. It'll be a basketball game probably, right? Which means, you know, a one-off game, everybody going hell for leather in a cup game. You know, anyone can win it. They're capable of winning it, but we're at home, so I'll back us to win it. So, but in this way game, I mean, I'd love to rest a few of these players, but we just ain't got it, have we? You know, this is showing the lack of. It's not that it's a lack of squad. The squad's okay when people are on form and doing their bit, but we have got two players in every position apart from left back. We've just been hit crucially with when people say we ain't been prepared. I'm not really with that, because at the beginning of the season we had a squad of players, and unfortunately we've got a horrendous. The injuries are worse this season than last, in my opinion.
Yeah, but every team gets injuries, Adrian.
Yeah, they do. They do.
No.
It's a question of when you get them. Like,
this is breaking news here, by the way. Like, Premier League pass.
Friedkin
Group to buy Everton. Official announcement next week.
So
they're rumoured to bring in Ashworth and Potter.
Dan Ashworth and Graham Potter.
So
yeah.
I mean, I don't.
That's our next manager gone then.
Son, Solanke, and Johnson. Those three seem to work better without Werner, right? But any last words, guys? Because we're going 2:48, and I'm sure you want to get a drink and whatever, you know, maybe. Any last words?
Well, 7 a.m. in the morning for Chang. If he wants a drink, he's got a problem.
We've had a steady 30 odd, 35 odd in the channel all the time we've been going. So big up to all of you in the chat channel. Big up to all you who's watching us, having the time and the patience to stick with us, especially when we have to have more difficult podcasts. We will have victory podcasts, so come and cheer about. You know what I mean? We're just going through a horrible moment.
2026 is scheduled in for 2026.
All right, okay. So so thank you. I want to thank all my guests that have been on tonight. You all know who you are, right? So I'm not going to name you all. We will invite you all back, of course, because we value your input on all things. Thank Mark for doing the chats and things like that.
No worries, mate. No worries.
And with that, guys, I will play you out with, if I can find it,